And we should be live. Hopefully all y'all can see what we're doing here. Here we go. Howdy, howdy. Just getting everything set up and we'll be started in just a moment, everybody. Guess TikTok is not working. Ah, there it is. Now it's working. Dave. Dave, what are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Hope everybody's having a fine evening. Converging, if you want to talk about it, feel free to join the box and we can have a conversation. I'm a pretty reasonable guy, all things considered. Good, you're watching on YouTube. That's exactly where you should be. Welcome, welcome. Remember y'all to like the live. We can get these happy last Friday. Yeah, I mean, who knows? If it's going away, it's going away. Which is why, if it is going away, you guys should follow me on TikTok. On YouTube, rather. Not TikTok. The other place. The place where you can actually find me. Alright, by the way, I was... No, never mind. Evening? I am American. I don't live in the United States, though. Although my air fryer? Are you guys getting some static? There shouldn't be any static. I'm not picking up any. Yeah, so the Supreme Court did uphold the ban. But Biden said that he's not going to enforce the ban. This is also on TikTok, yes. Biden says he's not going to enforce the ban, and all things considered, Trump is a wild card, so who knows what's going to happen. I am in an air fryer, actually. That's why the fire might be the fan. It could be. I wish that there was a way to, like, suppress... Maybe there's a way. Noise suppression? Oh, that's a lot better. Noise should be gone. How's that? Where can you be followed post TikTok? Literally on YouTube right now. Literally, this is live streaming on YouTube, right? Where I am currently. I'm currently in the Czech Republic. It is 7:30 p.m. Looks comfortably warm. It is warm. Asuka, I'm glad. Trump can do one good thing ever. He needs to redeem himself. True. Yeah, it's 7:30 in the evening. It's 7:28. Fine. I'm rounding. So sue me, okay? By the way, y'all remember to like the live, whether you're watching on TikTok or on YouTube. Make sure to like that live. It'll get more viewers in here, and then we can have more conversations. Ah, we have a guest. Let's bring up a guest.
How are you?
Moy man, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? You said you're good. Okay. So, looking at the proper thing, you're saying you're an atheist. Can you convince me to move?
Yep.
Okay. Can you give me like a little bit of understanding about you, like other than you're an atheist? Like, how did you come to this conclusion?
I've been an atheist for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, but no one just comes to this world and says, you know what, I'm an atheist.
Most people do.
No,
Most
I'm
people
talking
start out
about
that
like
way, right?
your
They have to be taught
background.
religion.
No, I'm talking about like, yeah, you come in, but like, have you like read any of the books?
Yeah, I have.
Which ones?
I've read the entirety of the Old Testament several times. I've read parts of the New Testament. I've read the Bhagavad Gita. I've read the Tao Te Ching. Um, I've read some Egyptian mythological texts.
Well, I'm talking about like the popular books that people follow, other than like.
I've read a chunk of the Christian Bible, but I haven't read the entirety of it.
So you only read the Bible. You haven't tried anything else.
I told you the books that I did read. I haven't read the Quran. Not
No,
like what are you
like
asking about? What books? What
I'm
books are you referring
asking.
to?
I'm asking. Like the Torah, the
I
Quran, the
I said
Bible.
I told you I've read the Old Testament several times.
Ah, so you just read the Old Testament. Okay,
I've read that several times. Yes.
okay. And have you gave like the Torah? Okay, I can't ask that question because you haven't given them a chance.
What do you mean I haven't given them a chance?
The Torah and the Quran. Like you haven't read.
Wait, you know that the Old Testament contains the Torah, right?
Yeah, yeah, it contains the Torah. Yeah. My bad, my bad.
Okay.
Yeah, so like, what about the Quran?
I haven't read it.
That's like a no-no or like
No,
something
I just
that.
haven't read it. I just wasn't interested in reading it. I just never got around to it.
Oh, because I'm Muslim. I'm
Okay.
Muslim, and
Then try to convince me. Why should I be a Muslim?
uh, Islam. Like, I know a lot of people. Like, guessing you live in the States, you hear a lot of things that are against Islam, right?
I do not live in the States, but I am American.
America, but you hear a lot of our West, and especially our generation nowadays, going against Islam and always basically trying to dismantle it. But I'm saying to you, which this is the part where I convince you, uh, Islam talks about literally how you were created. Islam talks about literally how the universe was created. Islam talks about all these prophecies and talks about each one of the stories. And like I feel like the only way I can tell you to come to Islam is like by trying, just like how you gave the Old Testament a chance to read it and go through it. I feel like maybe even if you don't start to believe in the Quran and you can criticize it to your own, I feel like you should give the Quran a chance
Oh,
and you should.
I've spoken with lots of Muslims. I know a fair bit about it.
Yeah,
I know
a
that
fair bit.
I know that there are claims. I know that there are claims that there's not that there's hundreds of scientific accuracies in it. That there's not a
Yeah,
single
yeah, yeah,
flaw.
yeah.
But those aren't true, right?
Uh, as a Muslim, I am biased and I'll say yes. As a Muslim.
Okay,
As
but
a,
having read those particular verses where there are claims that there's no false statements, blah 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 blah. I've seen from somebody on the outside that they're obviously false. Like the
which
moon wasn't split.
verses?
Like obviously the moon wasn't split in two, right?
The moon, the verse where it talks about like the moon splitting in two, he did, God did that because of a certain person. And that
I understand
person
that,
is,
but it didn't happen, right? The moon is not in half.
he brought it back together.
Oh, does it say that?
Yes, he brought
Where?
it back together.
Wait, where does it say that?
Huh?
Where
I
does it
have
say
to,
that?
I have to check that, but I'm sure I don't think the moon would just be split apart and God would be
Well,
like, yeah,
it doesn't say that in the book, right?
well,
It's in Surah Al-Qamar 54 verse 1,
verse 1, okay.
verse 1 and 2. And
I'm familiar with Al-Qamar,
so it
yes.
says, "The hour has drawn near and the moon was split in two.
Hmm.
Yet whenever they see a sign, they turn away, saying, 'Same old magic.' They rejected the truth and followed their own desires, and every matter will be settled, even though the stories of destroyed nations that have already come to them are a sufficient deterrent. This Quran is profound." Like, it doesn't say anything about it being brought back
Surah
together, right?
Al-Qamar is Surah Al-Qamar is long though.
Well, yeah, but it's not talking about the moon anymore.
Well,
Like they're not talking about the moon anymore. They're just talking about
I
other
swear
things.
the moon in two, it's, I don't know, bro, because scientists have backed it up. I don't know.
Scientists have backed up that the moon is in half.
They have backed up the Quranic claim. You can
That
check
the
it.
moon is in half. Which scientists have backed this up? Sorry.
You can research it right now. Google it up.
Wait, aren't you supposed to know?
I don't really look into like
Because as far as I know, I can see the moon, and it's not in two.
What about the other ones where it says like how you're created? That's also like false.
Well, I mean,
I
look,
don't
the
know.
claim is that there's not a false statement in the Quran, that it's flawless. But as long as I find one flaw, that's all that I need in order to invalidate the claims, right?
Not really.
How many claims do you think that... So would the Quran still be 100% true if there was a flaw in it?
With the Quran is like the one thing I can tell you where it says the moon split two, there can be something called tafsir, and they can provide more context on it. And that's what I'm
Okay,
saying
so
to
like
you.
interpretations.
Yeah,
Okay, so
interpretation.
so is one of the interpretations like it it was a metaphor?
To be honest with you, I have to check. It sounds embarrassing now.
I would bet you that that is one of the interpretations, that it was a metaphor is the answer because the moon is obviously not split in two.
Because with tafsir, as I'm saying, tafsir is basically someone can come here and read a context of a surah where it says a child did this, and then a context that gives what the child exactly did.
Right. No, I understand I understand what you're saying. But the point
Uh-huh.
is that if the text is needs interpretation, then it's not perfect, right?
But like, didn't the Bible needs context for a verse, or it doesn't?
Well, that's why I think the Bible is also not a perfect book. Like, look,
Um,
if the Quran was literally dictated by an angel, why is it so poorly communicated that it needs interpretation for hundreds of years?
what do you mean like dictated? Can you
Well, I
explain
mean,
like in a
isn't the claim that Gabriel just dictated the Quran to Muhammad?
yeah, Gabriel? So this is what happened. God himself ordered Gabriel to come down to the prophet, and
Yeah,
since the prophet couldn't read or write, he recited to him the words of the
I
Quran.
know.
Because
That's what I said. That's what dictated means.
yeah, he recited to him the Quran, and from there the prophet spread the word
Right.
to
So
other
if
prophets.
it literally came from an angel, why is it so hard? Why is it so poorly communicated?
I don't think it's purely communicated just because it
If it
needs
wasn't
more
poorly
context.
communicated, why does it need interpretation?
Diary of the Wimpy Kid needs context
The
when
Diary of
reading
the
it.
Wimpy Kid wasn't written by an angel.
I don't know. I could sit here. My only excuse for the Quran needs just like how the Bible needs
Right. So
context.
they're both imperfect books.
I guess to your idea, if a book needs context and it was sent down by an angel, uh, it's not the word of God according to you. That's
Well, I
something I
mean, look,
learned.
if God is a perfect communicator, it shouldn't require centuries of interpretation, right? Like it should have just been as
Each,
clear as day that anybody who reads it can understand it perfectly.
do you know, I don't know, it might be I don't know if you're familiar, like, with Dr. Kuda,
Who?
Dr. Kuda, scientist.
Dr. Kura?
No, Akuda,
I
Okuda.
don't know who Dr. Akuda is.
Dr. Kuda is a person who was like, just like you, who was an atheist, and he started from nothing, basically. No, not nothing, but he picked up the Quran just to do like information on it, and just to gain knowledge. He started reading it. It took him a while. I'll be honest with you. It took him a couple of years. He kept reading it, and then he understood it more and more and more. And then he tried his hardest to dispute the Quran, and he couldn't. He turned it into being a Muslim.
Okay, that's cool. What does that have to do with me?
I don't. All I can come up in here, I guarantee you, everyone that's gonna come up here is gonna just tell you to read their book and to gain knowledge on it, because we cannot come up here and provide you verses that you're not gonna believe in. It's impossible.
Why would reading a book convince me that there's a God?
Do you like reading a book because it's literally has claims? Wouldn't you want to like learn what everyone is like? believing in, or you just don't
I
care?
mean, I'm pretty familiar with like with Islamic belief, with Christian belief, less familiar with Hindu belief, pretty familiar with like European pagan beliefs, pretty familiar with Jewish beliefs. You know, like
And what
I'm
my
pretty
other
familiar with
thing,
it. There's a reason I
yeah,
don't believe them,
yeah,
and it's because they seem like nonsense to me.
okay, if they're nonsense, this is something that I also have with atheists that I'm kind of against of. If you guys are so against these books and you don't believe in them, why are you arguing against people who believe in these books? There's no point. It's useless. You
So
should
you've
just,
never had a conversation because having a conversation is fun, I guess.
no, it's not about conversation. It's about you guys are debating about something you don't believe in, which kind of doesn't
Yes.
make sense, you know?
Do you know that people debate about anime?
Yeah, and anime is
And
something else.
anime is not real either.
No, anime is something else. You don't have to believe in anime or do anything. You can just debate anime casually.
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
But with religion, you're debating that these books don't make sense to you. These books, you
Yes,
should.
that would be like saying, you know, the Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire just didn't really make sense. There's some plot holes in this book. I think it's a bad book.
Yes, then someone is gonna come to you and rebuttal you and debate with you,
Yes, and so
which
presumably that's what you're trying to do, right? Right?
not really, because
Oh, okay.
in the beginning, you shouldn't like argue against someone. Like it's you know what I'm trying to get at. It's like pointless.
No, I don't.
You should not care about what people like believe in because you
Why
don't
not?
believe in it. Even no
Well,
because
right, but
even if
it does
someone
affect me, right?
not really
It does. I
doesn't.
mean, do you live in the States?
I live in close to the States. I'm like in Canada, yeah.
Okay, so then you know even more than ever that the crazy Christians in the States are currently making your country worse.
How come? Like by them being liberal?
Because
I don't.
The United States just heavily influences Canada, and the United States' Christian evangelical position, which is dominating the Republican Party, is making all of the bad decisions right now.
Like what in terms of abortion and everything?
Like in terms of abortion, in terms of censorship, in terms of imposing um various religious statues on public property, like forcing kids to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in schools. Like it obviously affects people.
With abortion, it's kind of like I don't think it's a religious matter, you know. But that's another.
It literally is only religious. That's the only reason why the religious right votes at all in the United States. It's because of abortion. It's the only reason.
Not
Like
really.
that's the history of the abortion debate. It didn't used to be a big thing until the 70s and 80s. And then Reagan, I guess it was really the 80s, Reagan literally started courting the religious right because of he essentially needed more votes. And so he said, "Hey, you guys should care about abortion. We can keep that an annoying thing that we can fight about." And it was made into an issue because
But
of the
the
religious
thing
right.
is, but the thing is, when you talk to someone about abortion, they don't come to you and tell you, "Oh, I'm Christian. I
They
believe that
literally
abortion."
do that. They literally do that.
I don't know. You're talking to people who put
I've spoken with a
religion
lot of people about abortion before. So they
because
literally do that.
I've been on several abortion debates on here, and I've never brought up this a single time that I was Muslim.
Oh,
Not
okay.
a
Well,
single
I
time.
mean, but is your stance on abortion guided by your Muslim principles?
Nope, absolutely not.
For some reason, I have a hard time believing you. But anyway, this is a
Absolutely
bit
not. I
off
feel like,
topic. This is a bit
yeah,
off topic. Do you want to talk about the topic, or do you just want to call it there?
I want to call it there, and I would just advise to read the comment. If you don't, you don't. It's you.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
By the way, y'all remember to like the live, and if you want to follow me, and TikTok gets banned, then go watch on YouTube. We are currently live on YouTube, where you can like the live and you can join the community. For some reason, the TikTok guest box is not opening. Open, please. There we go. Let's talk to the one. Oops, I just clicked on the wrong guy. Oh well. Oh well.
Hello.
Archer, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. What do you believe, and how are you going to convince me of it?
I mean, that's a tough question, man. And I kind of hopped onto this because I see that you are a physicist, right?
Yep.
So I'm actually studying at a university in physics at the moment, and that's kind of so I give you some gratitude for that.
Rad.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I mean, you bring up an interesting question, like, and I don't really know even what I would say what my belief system is at this point, right? I think kind of an interesting perspective on it is just like the outlook of science leads you to look a specific way, kind of to answer these questions, and I think a big thing is like how do you know what exactly happened at the start of the universe and start of this planet, right? Like that's cosmology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think like there's no true way of knowing. I think the thing is like we have evidence that leads us to these claims and stuff like that. So, like, who will ever actually know if there truly is a God or not? Because a lot of the things that almost that I've heard you describe just in the short little while about this other guy saying some stuff like people claim that like acts of God and all this stuff is, you know, a sign of this or a sign of that. But, oh, because I woke up this morning, could that be a sign of God?
So
No,
it sounds like you're agnostic.
And I don't. In how would you characterize being agnostic? Is the
That you're not
question.
sure. That you're not committed one way or another to a belief in a deity.
That's probably true.
But
It
then you don't
sounds
really
right.
have anything to convince me of.
Yeah,
Right?
you're right.
So I
Yeah,
gotta let you
you're
go. But
absolutely right.
Archer, good luck in your studies, okay?
Hey,
Oh, I kicked you off too early. Sorry, bud. I don't know why the TikTok. Well, I know why. It's because my computer's slow. It's because my computer is currently struggling. It is riding the struggle bus. All right, let's talk to. Oh, there was a person whose name was God, which would have been fun. Let's talk to Huma.
The ins and outs of it.
Huma.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? What do you believe, and how are you going to convince me of it?
Um, I consider myself an agnostic theist.
Okay.
So I believe, well, I want to believe. I've recently started believing in some sort of creator, but I mean, I could be wrong, right? So, and because you're a physicist, I've been trying to get a hold of you for a while, and I'm just glad you brought me on today. So thanks for that.
Well, yeah. So, which creator do you believe in, or just a
Okay.
generic non-named creator?
Yeah, okay, so like a bit of backstory on me, right? I was born into a Christian family. But like around eighth grade, I really started questioning my belief system. And I basically became a hardline atheist. But over
Okay,
the last
but that
few
wasn't my question, right? My question was just which one do you believe in?
well, okay, so I believe the universe is um kind of is this is gonna sound weird, but I kind of believe the universe is intelligent in a way. I believe that we're not random, and I think maybe my argument is kind of a fine-tuning argument type of thing, right? Like I don't believe that this just all happened randomly. I believe it's there's some sort of purpose behind how we got here.
Okay,
Because otherwise it just seems
but
kind of
that still
weird to believe
doesn't. So
otherwise.
so just to be clear, you're like, do you think that the creator has intentions for us, or do you think that it's just like a deist thing?
I believe we have free will. So it's not necessarily that we all have to follow God's plan or whatever. But I
Sorry,
believe
that wasn't
we're.
my question. Do you think that like the creator is like good?
That's a good question. I don't think I would say it's amoral.
Okay. Do you
I
think
mean,
that the
I'd say
creator
humans decide
knows
what good is.
everything?
Yes.
Okay. And can the creator do everything, or is it just could create the universe but can't interfere after that?
I believe could create the universe but can't really interfere because I believe in free will.
Okay, but so like it can't do miracles or anything, right?
No, not
Okay.
really.
Yeah.
No, it can't do
So why
miracles
should
at
I
all.
believe in this? Why should I believe in your deist deity?
Well, because it seems almost illogical to believe otherwise. I mean, how did
How do
this
you figure?
happen? How?
Well,
Because okay.
questions aren't right. So you
Mhm.
say it's illogical, but then you don't actually present the logical contradiction. Instead, you just ask questions. And asking questions is okay, but it's not how you get to a logical.
Sure, but okay. So for me, the contradiction is in the fact that the universe could have been in any other format. It could have
Could it
existed
have?
in any other
Wait,
way,
could it have?
but it existed in.
Wait, how do you know it
How
could
could
have?
it? I mean, how could it not have? Right? Like the.
I mean, that's a claim, right? What if this is the only way the universe could have been? Is there any way to rule that out?
Okay, so even if this is the only way the universe could have been, it's still in such a way where life exists and consciousness exists. So does that not seem like it is an intentional outcome? Because
No, it doesn't. If this is the only way it could have been, then there's no other way that it could have been. So it doesn't require intent at all.
okay, I mean, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so do you believe the universe started with the Big Bang?
No.
Right. So you believe there was time before the Big Bang?
I lean that way, yes.
Huh. So then the universe could have just stayed in whatever state it was before the Big Bang happened, but yet something made it happen. And then when
Well,
it
no,
happened,
I don't necessarily think that it was just like sitting there doing nothing forever and then the Big Bang happened. That's not what I think.
so what, I mean, if you could estimate as best as you can, what do you believe happened before? What do you think the universe
I
was
suspect that there were similar or identical universes to ours previously.
Interesting. And then, so you believe, okay, so you suspect all of this is happening. There was activity
Mhm.
before the Big Bang, but but there's no reason to it. It's just
Yeah.
random. There's no purpose behind all of it.
I wouldn't say it's random. I would say it's determined. But yeah, I wouldn't say that there's like some external reason.
Well, I find that difficult to accept because why it feels like a lot of trouble. It feels like a lot of work to generate this complex systems. I mean, consciousness does not seem like a trivial thing, right? Like it's six
Yeah, it's
billion
not
years of
trivial.
evolution. Yeah, like what, 4 billion years of evolution. The dinosaurs had to die out for humans to take their place and to be intelligent. Like so many things that didn't need to happen just happened for us to be here.
Yep.
So I guess it's kind of a type of fine-tuning argument, but I haven't really heard a reason to tell me to not believe it, because I guess in my head, Occam's razor just says it kind of feels like it's intentional, right? Because if it wasn't intentional, all the other permutations of the universal constants leads to gravity being too weak for planets to form, or gravity being too strong for planets to form. But it just
But
happens to be
but how
right.
do you
The matter and antimatter
how do you
divide
know the other
just happens to.
permutations? How do you know the other
Mhm.
permutations could have been any different? How do you know that this isn't the only way that it could have been?
Because okay, so if this is the only way that it could have been, then that's some
Hmm.
sort of deterministic argument.
Yes,
So there's
I am a
so are you
determinist.
so you don't believe in free will?
I do not.
Very interesting. I mean, how can you not? Okay. Um, so if that's the case, then how is that different from a Christian who just believes in God's plan?
Most Christians believe in free will.
I think most Christians believe in a deterministic or a fatalistic philosophy, because they believe God knows
The
everything and
the
has
only Christians who don't
pre-planned
believe in free
everything.
will are Calvinists, and they're not the majority.
Okay, honestly, I don't know enough about Christian theology. So okay, I'll take your word for that. Interested. It's I didn't think you would not believe in free will. Okay.
Well, I
But
mean,
isn't it
it
isn't
should be very unsurprising. The universe obeys laws of physics. We are part of the universe. We obey laws of physics.
I believe something about consciousness breaks the deterministic chain.
Well,
I can't
I know
prove
that I know
that.
that's what you believe, but like I don't see any reason why we should think that other than it feels good.
Fair, but it anyway. It's yeah. I mean, I can't prove that, so I'm not gonna argue
Okay.
for it. But fair enough. I really just wanted to speak to you for a while. I'm still, I'm still okay. So this is I still have this fine-tuning problem, right? So you're saying you believe the universe just had to be this way.
Well, I don't
Um,
believe that, but I don't see why that's not possible. I'm pretty agnostic on the issue. Like I don't know why the
right.
constants are the way they are, but I also don't know that they could have been different. So if I can't rule that out, I don't know how I can use fine-tuning as an argument to try to justify that the universe was designed intentionally.
Hmm, interesting. If they couldn't have been different, it seems almost circular to me. It almost seems like, what if they couldn't have been different, then
Well, let me give
it
you an
was
example.
designed to be this
Do you
way.
think so? Could the ratio of a circle to its diameter be different?
Um, no.
Right. It just has to be that way.
It
It's just
has
like
to be.
how geometry works.
Yeah,
It's pi,
yeah.
by the way, for those who don't know. So, at least in Euclidean space, like in non-Euclidean space, you can have whatever. But in Euclidean space, the ratio of a circumference of a circle to its diameter is pi, and there's no fine tuning involved in that. That's just a property of circles. So maybe just a property of universes is that it has such and such constants.
Hmm. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I guess then who designed that property?
Well,
Where did
I
the
don't
property
think
come
that you
from?
have to say that circles were designed in order for circles to have a circumference that's 3.14 times bigger than its diameter. I don't think that circles need to be designed for that, right? It's just
No,
a property of circles.
but the circle is not doing anything. The universe
Well,
is
yeah, it's a simple
hosting
example.
life.
It's a simple example, obviously, but it
Sure,
illustrates the
sure.
point that like you can have properties of things that couldn't have been any other way.
That is correct. Yes. Yes.
So I just don't see how we can rule that out for the universe.
Fair point. Um, haven't really. I've never thought about that. I've not actually
Oh,
thought about
good.
that specific.
Thinking is good.
That's an interesting. That's an interesting argument. I'll have to think about it a bit more.
Okay.
But thanks for your time. I really
Of course.
appreciate it.
Thanks for being
Have
here,
a
man.
good one.
Take care.
Cool. Cheers. Bye.
If you're interested in seeing more of this content, which you are because you're watching, make sure to go follow me on YouTube, where I will be continuing if and when TikTok gets banned. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, like the live. We should get up to much higher numbers than 4 likes. Do better. There's 50-something of y'all. All right, let's bring on the next guest. Let's bring on Stephanie. Also, I don't know how Justin does it, but Justin has like 1,000 people watching his live at any one point, and I have like 50 on YouTube. On TikTok, I'm fine. Stephanie, how's it going?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. What do you believe, and how are you going to convince me of it?
So I think I'll probably be a little bit more unique in this room because you're a scientist. I'm also a scientist, so it was very hard for me to come to my belief system. But my belief system currently is more so along the lines of spirituality, but it's individualistic.
Okay, but is this a belief in a god, or?
So in the terms of a God, my belief is that a creator, I am the creator of my reality.
Okay, but that's consistent with atheism, right?
Is it? I'm not aware because I don't know a lot about atheism, so that's something that I haven't delved into.
Generally speaking, atheists just believe that there isn't a being that there isn't a supernatural being that created the physical universe, right?
Right. Okay.
And you believe that, so it sounds like we agree.
Well, I will say I won't say that I don't believe in a higher consciousness, because that's more so what I believe, that there's a consciousness involved. But I wouldn't title it as a person in the sky or anything like that.
Well, nobody believes in a person in the sky, right?
Well, some people do, but
I don't think anybody does, actually. I've never met a single person, and I've spoken with a lot of people who believe in God. Look, so
but I
so
did have a
for-
question because
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you first. You first.
I did have a question because you mentioned your belief system about free will.
Yep.
So you do not believe in free will, correct?
I do
Okay.
not.
That's kind of in line with what I was thinking too. I was a Christian at one point. I was raised a Christian, but
Mhm.
life happened and I got away from that. But and studying science also. But I believe that free will it doesn't make sense. The concept of it doesn't make sense. Where Christians think that they have this ability to just have free will, but you weren't put here with free will technically. A seed was planted in your mind of good and evil from jump. Well, so wouldn't that destroy the concept of free will?
I mean, you'd think so, but they. Anyway, I won't talk about people if they're not here to defend themselves.
Of course, fair enough. But no, I just wanted to pop in and say, if I were to convince you to believe anything, it would just to believe that you are who you are supposed to be. And it doesn't matter what books are out there. It doesn't matter none of that. You're here doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that's just what it is. Believe in yourself.
Well, you know what? I'll take it. I'm also, because of you, I'm changing the text of the prompt. Because I realized it wasn't specific enough. So, but thank you for being here.
You
Stephanie.
were
I
not
appreciate it.
specific enough, but there you go. No problem. Thanks
Take
for
care.
having me.
There we go. More specific. All right, let's bring up another guest. All right, let's talk to Moost. Have you thought about compatibilism? Compatibilism is just defining free will into existence. I don't play word games like that. Moost, how's it going?
Oh, hello. So you changed the problem, so I just want to opt out because I was trying to defend for Buddhism, but we don't believe in a God, so
That's fair. But thanks for being here, bud.
yeah. See ya.
I mean, spirituality is like a whole separate conversation, and like I really don't like. I'm not spiritual, but like if somebody else wants to be spiritual, as long as they're not using it to make bad decisions, like I don't care. Thanks, Artemis. I appreciate you. By the way, if you guys do want to support me on YouTube, like if you're trying to support me on TikTok, great. I appreciate you. Love you with all my heart. However, YouTube takes less of a cut. So if you want to do that, go to YouTube. Instead of taking 60%, they only take 30%. Mr. Billy, how's it going?
Hey, you called on me. That's awesome.
I
How you
did.
doing, bud?
I'm doing okay. What do you believe, and can you
So-
convince me of it?
Well, before I get that, I just want to ask you, what is the definition that you say an atheist is?
Somebody who doesn't believe in a god.
Okay. And does that belief come from knowledge? In other words, the way I describe it is atheist is someone that knows there's no God, and an agnostic is someone that doesn't believe it, but is questioning it. Does that fit
Okay,
into
well,
what you're
I'm just
thinking?
taking it as somebody who doesn't believe in a god. But now it's your turn to answer the question. What do you believe? Which god do you believe in?
Well, I believe in a creator. I
Okay.
believe that because of the design, like take for instance the whole thing that people always say, if you dissect an eyeball, they're all the same design. And I don't consider myself an artist, but a lot of people say I'm an artist. I create flutes and so I'm artistic, and I work with my hands and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, I know that there's a design for certain things. If I want to make something, I have to follow a certain design. And because there's a certain design, it stands to believe and makes logic that there's a creator of that design. Is that something we agree on?
Sometimes. Some things that look designed are designed.
Well,
Some things
no,
that look designed aren't.
no. Hold on. No, if there is something that somebody wants to recreate,
Mm-hmm.
okay, there has to be a design to follow to recreate that.
Why?
Well, isn't there?
No.
If I just go about, okay, I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
If I look at, let's say I'm looking at, let's take a cup, just a simple cup. It might have some lines on it that make it different from the other cups, right?
Sure.
So now I'm taking this cup and I want to recreate that cup, not a cup.
Yep.
That cup. Okay. So there should be, or there has to be, a path to follow to get to that exact cup. Doesn't
Why do
that
you
make
think-
sense?
No, I don't. I think that there are ways that this can happen without.
I think
without
that you think
intention
that,
as
but I
well.
think that it would take you away from what you're trying to convey here. I think
can give
that
you an
inside
example.
your head. Give me an example, please.
Yeah. So, let's say that. So we see that like crystals are fairly organized and complex things, right?
Crystals,
if you take a crystal from a cave, like let's say it's hanging off one, like in a cave, it's hanging off, and then like there's an earthquake and the crystal falls down. That crystal can provide the seed for new crystal growth of the exact same kind,
Why?
and it happens completely naturally.
What? How is that though?
How does that happen? So crystals require
Yeah.
a seed in order to develop. Basically, they just
Okay,
grow
so
on
where
little
did that
tiny
crystal
shards.
come from? And
Well,
where did that crystal
it
come
came from another seed, and they
And where
can
did
form
that seed
spontaneously
come
under
from?
certain circumstances. They can
you
form
got-
spontaneously under certain. Sorry.
They can? Did you say they can?
They can. Yes. Like in particular, if
How
there's
is
a lot
that?
of. Sorry.
How is that?
Complex chemistry. Usually, it's not even that complex, and it's also not chemistry. Essentially, it's the same kind of way that like if you put water in a if you put a water bottle in the freezer, sometimes it won't freeze until you like tap on it, right? So that's how like that requires that sort of crystallization process requires some sort of external influence like an earthquake or a lightning strike or just a rock or a piece of dust falling on it or something like that. But that's a thing that can
How
happen
is it that you
spontaneously.
know
right?
this?
I
How
have
is
a
it that
PhD
you know
I
that,
have
what
a-
you just said?
I have a PhD in physics.
And what does that mean? That you followed, somebody was teaching you something, right?
It means that I know a lot
It
about
means that
physics.
you read something and you were taught something by
or I've done
somebody
experiments,
else.
or I've done experiments and
You
collected
were,
data.
my friend, the basic thing is somebody taught you that.
Do you know what an experiment is?
You learned it.
Do you know what an experiment is?
No, I'm a rock that just fell out of a tree.
Well,
Of course I know what an
when
experiment
you
is.
do an
It's something that you
experiment,
can repeat. When you
when
do an experiment, it's going to come out.
when you do an
Mhm.
experiment, is somebody teaching you something?
You're following somebody's theory, usually.
Do you think that all experiments are based on the same experiment that was done before?
Why are you taking me off topic, bro?
You asked how I knew this, and I
you're
told you.
avoiding, but you're avoiding what I just said, and now we kind of got lost.
Well,
in
I
that.
gave you an example.
You
of
never
how
answered that,
I
never
did.
answered
I gave
that
you an
question.
example. I gave you an example. You didn't like the example, so I explained more.
Well, I mean, I could be just like that with you. I mean, you don't like the example that I gave you, but that doesn't mean that I'm wrong.
So
And,
no,
I'm not
agree-
trying to
I
convince
absolutely
you of a
agree.
God or not.
I absolutely agree.
See, I'm not gonna
that
hold on a second.
sometimes,
Let me. Okay.
I absolutely agree
Uh-huh.
that sometimes, if you want to reproduce something, doing so requires some sort of instructions. Like if you want to create a
Why?
car, you'll need a
Why?
blueprint.
Why can't
because
it just?
some
So
things?
because there's a creator.
Because some
Because
things.
there's a creator.
Please
Mhm.
don't interrupt me. I'm trying to finish the thought. Because some things aren't
Uh-huh.
thermodynamically stable, let's say. They're not things that can occur naturally. Or at least they have a very low probability of occurring naturally. But some things, like
Okay.
crystals, for example, snowflakes, these have a very high probability of occurring naturally. They're very easy to explain.
But something created nature for it to happen. Because when you go into other planets, there's no atmosphere. There's or different, very different atmospheres. There's, from what we are being told, I've never been there, obviously, but let's just take Mars for instance, because we could only go by what they're showing us, and they're saying that there's something driving around on there, and it looks much like the desert out here, but that entire planet supposedly is like that. And so I'm wondering, I mean, if things are just so random, can just happen, I'm wondering why there's not some sort of life that we would see out there too.
Yeah, so
by what you're saying, by your logic,
right.
So
I can
something
explain.
had to design this here.
Yeah, so
wouldn't you?
So we've only
doesn't
really
that
checked.
stand to reason though?
We've only
Hold on,
really
I'm still
checked...
talking. Hold on a second. I was still talking.
Okay, are you going to ask questions and then keep talking, or are you going to?
Well, no, I
wasn't.
I'm sorry, my friend. I wasn't done talking though.
Okay, then
I wasn't done giving
don't ask questions
my
if you don't want me to
example.
answer them. Then that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I wasn't. I am asking. I'm in the middle of my question. I haven't finished my question yet.
Well, you asked two questions.
You cut me off. Okay. Well, let's just go back to the second question then. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was going to answer that. So you might think that there is more life elsewhere in the universe if it happened naturally, and there very well may be. We've only really checked 3 other places besides Earth. We've checked the Moon, we've checked Mars, and we've sort of checked Venus. We haven't really checked Venus, but we've sort of checked it. We haven't even checked everywhere in our solar system for life. In fact, there
and that's
are
exactly
a lot.
What I was getting
to. Please, you got mad at me when I interrupted you. There are a lot of people, a lot of astrobiologists who have good reason to believe that there is life on Europa, which is just a moon in our solar system. So imagine that life is so common that it happens twice in the same solar system. Would you still believe?
Well, we haven't found any.
I know,
but that's
do you
not.
think it's
that
possible?
wasn't what the question was. I don't know. I mean, nothing's impossible in my belief. Nothing's impossible. Everything is possible.
Is there being a creator impossible? Or, sorry, is there not being a creator impossible?
By what you were starting to define as recreating, yes. Without a creator, nothing of this would happen.
I thought you said nothing's impossible.
Because there's so many... Well, I don't know why you're trying to, flip around things and everything like that, but you pretty much like to avoid the question. I'm going to go ahead and leave you with this because, I mean, you're very, I don't know what your trip is, but if there's not a God, then why do you talk against it? And the reason you do is because even the demons know that Jesus Christ is the King and Lord and the creator of all, and they tremble.
So much for believing in just a creator.
And that's fine.
So much for believing
in just
a creator.
I believe my belief is in Jesus Christ.
There's some very specific creators. Very specific creators, I guess. Yes, he voted for Trump, we know. We know. All right, let's bring up... there was somebody in the comments who had a big cross in their name, and they said, bring me up, I'll convince you, and they're not in the guest box. So, if you're still here, feel free to go join the guest box. By the way, I am more likely to bring you up if you have Jesus or Christ or God or a cross or something in your name. Like, it's just true. Are you an atheist, the positive position that God does not exist? I am an agnostic atheist, you might say. I mean, I lean toward... I have credence in the belief that God does not exist. I don't know if that answers your question. Zazbo. Miguelito, thank you for the glasses. Zazbo, how's it going? Zazbo, you here?
Yes.
What do you believe in, and can you convince me of it? Zazbo? All right. Let's bring up another guest. I really need a stronger computer. This is embarrassing. Like, it feels like it's 2004. With, like, my computer struggling to run, like, Neopets or something. Or whatever I was playing when I was 11. Alright, let's talk to T. Cole.
Hey,
that me?
T. Cole, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. What do
Pleasure
you
to
believe?
talk to you, Dr. Blitz.
What do you believe,
So,
and can you convince me of it?
I don't know if I can convince you of anything. You seem to have your mind pretty much made up on those things. But I believe, I'm not even sure. Have you heard of Hermetics?
Hermetics. Is this a divine belief, a belief in a god?
Yes. Basically,
Oh.
the core tenet of Hermeticism is that the universe is mental, and that the physical universe is a mental creation of what we call the all. You know, layman's call it God. You know, the Judeo-Christian anthropomorphic God in the sky isn't necessarily what the core belief of Hermeticism really is.
Just to be
Have you ever
clear,
heard?
just to be clear, there is not a
Yeah.
single. Well, I don't know, not a single person, but like 99% of people who believe in a god don't believe in a man in the sky.
Oh, okay. I
Like,
was just under the
I don't know how
assumption
people.
that
I don't know how people don't know this, but like, if you ask a Christian, if you tell a Christian that they believe in a man in the sky, you're not accurately representing their beliefs, right?
okay, well, I apologize for
Like
misrepresenting
that's an atheist talking point, which is really cringe, and I just don't know why people think that that's what people
Wow.
believe.
Look at you criticizing atheists. I appreciate that too. Good for you.
I mean, look, if
See-
they have bad beliefs, I'm going to criticize it.
Awesome, and I appreciate that. So, basically, in a nutshell, what I believe is, I mean, you said in a previous live stream that I watched that you were Jewish, correct?
Yep,
Have you ever heard of the Kabbalah? Kabbalist
I
tree
have.
of life?
Yep.
Okay, so Ein Sof being unity consciousness, and then splitting into two opposing forces. I think it's Hokmah and Bina, if I'm remembering correctly. That would be positive, negative, masculine, feminine, electric, magnetic. So that, in my mind, basically solves, you know, the atheist argument, the problem of evil. Because every time you have two opposing opposites, you're going to have conflict. Can you agree with that?
If you have two opposing opposites, you're going to have conflict.
Yeah, you have two
I
opposing
guess.
forces.
But why
Yeah.
should I believe any of this?
That's a good question. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not trying to convince you to believe what I believe. I'm just trying to offer some perspective and some insight into, you know, how consciousness could be the underlying thing that creates the universe. I mean, what is your thoughts on consciousness? Like, what
I'm
creates
pretty agnostic as
consciousness?
far as consciousness is concerned. If anybody has a belief about what consciousness is, I assume that they're wrong because I don't think anybody knows what consciousness is.
Okay, so you're open-minded to the fact that the universe could potentially be conscious itself. Consciousness
I
itself.
highly doubt it. I was talking about like human consciousness, not the universe. I wouldn't even know what it means to say that the universe is consciousness itself.
Awareness. Awareness
What
itself is the
what
only
what
thing
does
that
it
truly
mean for the
exists.
universe to be aware?
And
What
the
does that mean?
awareness to be what does it mean for us to be aware? To be self-aware.
I can look
aware
in the
of our
mirror
own
and I can
existence.
recognize myself. What does that mean for the universe? Can the
Right.
universe look in the mirror?
So what mechanism creates that ability to be aware?
I think they're called
an
mirror
elephant-
neurons.
Can an elephant look in a mirror and
I think
know
so.
that it's conscious?
I think so.
No. Have you ever seen those videos of the cats?
I'm pretty
when
sure
they're in the mirror?
elephant.
They think it's
I'm pretty
another
sure.
cat.
I'm pretty sure elephants pass the mirror test. Not all
Okay,
animals
maybe
do,
not
but
elephants.
I think elephants do.
Okay, so right, so that's another core tenet of Hermetics is that there's different layers and levels of consciousness, down to the mineral all the way up to human consciousness. So we are basically, if you want to make a reference to mirrors, we would be the mirror reflection of the divine consciousness. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, divine consciousness is eternal and divine, and then our consciousness.
What does that mean?
What do you mean? What does it mean?
What is it?
It's
What
just
is
awareness.
what does the
Infinite.
divine consciousness mean? Like, what is it? What
It means
properties
it's
does it
infinite
have?
and that it knows all things. What's that?
Okay, so in what way is it embodied, or do you not think it's embodied at all?
I don't think it's necessarily. Think of the universe as being infinite potential.
I don't know
Right?
what that means.
Okay, you know, in the electromagnetic spectrum, right? There's
Mhm.
potential,
Yeah,
wave
there's
function,
there's
and then-
electric
right.
potential. Yeah.
Right, and then so that is the fundamental underlying consciousness of the
Electric
universe.
potential
And
is
then,
consciousness? Electric potential is
no,
not
electromagnetic. So that is
electromagnetism. Electromagnetism didn't exist at the beginning of the universe.
okay.
Or it, well, whether it was the beginning of the
So the
universe or
creative,
not, electromagnetism
so the
didn't
creative,
exist 13.8 billion years ago.
so the creative thought process could have created electromagnetism,
What
right?
creative? Where was the creative thought process coming from?
From Ein Sof, what I made reference to earlier,
But
infinite awareness.
so I mean, look, I have a one of the ways that I form beliefs, and I'm sure one of the ways that you form beliefs is. Are you driving?
Logic. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Did you hear my blinker?
Yeah, no, you can't be on a TikTok live and also driving. I'll say this and then I'll let you go. One of the ways that people form beliefs is by using something called induction. You look at the world around you and you see what properties it has, and you apply that to your entire belief system. So, like, if you see that if the only whales you ever see are living in the water, you say, oh, all whales live in the water, and you'd be right. If you look at swans and you see a white swan and you're like, oh, all swans must be white, then you'd be wrong.
But
you'd
you're
be
talking
almost
about
right.
objective reality, though.
No, I'm
you're
not.
talking about.
I'm talking
Yes,
about
you
how
are.
we form beliefs. Now, when I interact with other minds, the only minds I've ever interacted with are minds that live in bodies, right? And so it seems pretty reasonable to assume, not guaranteed, but it seems super reasonable to just assume that all minds live in bodies.
But
I
that's
just
an
don't know
assumption.
why I should. It's yeah, but it's a justified assumption. Unless I have good reason to believe otherwise, it's totally reasonable.
Based on our subjective experience here as humans having a temporary subjective mortal experience, yes, I can agree with that. But
Yep.
you have to look at the other side.
I don't
The
know
other
what other
side
side,
would
but
be
I do have to drop you since you're
divine
driving.
consciousness.
Any last words?
I'm pulling.
Oh, okay, if you're
I'm
pulling over,
pulling
that's
off
fine.
right now.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm done. I'm done driving right now. So
Okay.
I was just.
Yeah.
You
So
heard my blinker. I was pulling off the road.
okay. Yeah. So like, look. So let's say that I saw 100 swans and they were all white. I would be justified in believing that all swans are white until you showed me a black swan, right?
Okay. Fair point.
So, given the fact that all of the minds I've ever seen are in bodies, I would be justified in believing that all minds are in bodies, unless you show me one that isn't. Oh, where'd he go?
I'm here. Sorry. What
You're
about plant consciousness then?
Sorry, what about what?
Plant consciousness.
I don't know if plants are conscious, but even if they were, they have bodies.
But haven't they? Okay, they do have bodies, right? Okay, so we're still. I understand your point of view. Okay, you're very focused on just the objective physical reality that we experience day to day. Okay, but we only experience a very small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum of what actually exists. So if you think about our brains being finite in material as more of a transceiver, like a receiver of consciousness, not the generator of consciousness, right?
Why should I believe
So
that?
now, well, you don't have to believe it. I mean, I think that there's plenty of proof or evidence to suggest
Like
that.
what?
That's a good question. I can't provide you with any direct evidence, obviously, right now.
But okay.
But I mean, you do make some good points.
Are
Right?
you still driving?
I'm almost done. I'm stopping right now. I was pulling off the road. Now I'm stopping. You know, I'm being safe. I'm not even looking at my phone. I have you in my
I know.
ear.
It's just
okay?
it's TikTok TOS. That's all.
Oh, TikTok TOS. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, well, what are you? So, are you upset that TikTok is going away?
Obviously, yeah.
What was all that stuff earlier about you? You know, he voted for Trump. You don't know that.
I mean, look.
I mean, look, I don't like
Maybe it's
Trump
an
myself.
assumption, okay?
It was an assumption. Stop making assumptions, okay? You know
No,
what
I'm gonna
assumptions
keep making
are, don't
assumptions. I'm gonna assume that you're still driving. Get out of here, Cole.
you?
No, but thanks for being here, man. I do appreciate you, but I'm gonna move on to the next guest. All right, let us talk to Set Fire to the Rain.
Hello.
Fire, how's it going?
How is everything?
I'm doing all right. What
So,
God do you believe in, and how can you convince me of it?
I'm gonna go with Islam because it's pretty good. You know, they discussed this for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, why do you think... why should I
Yeah.
be a Muslim?
You know, there is an idea in Islam that goes like, we are systems that live in a system that is created by something. Us as systems, semi-systems, you know, small systems, we can't understand.
We're a system living in a system? I don't follow.
Like the universe itself is a system,
Sure.
and yeah, and we are a small system in it. Like we are affected by the system that we live in.
Okay. I agree.
Yeah. So we are still systems though. Like
Yep,
we are
I
affected
agree.
since we are affected by time.
Yep.
Everything we realize by time, that would make us system.
Okay.
While God itself, it can be bound by time or place. This is according to Islam, you know.
Well, yeah, but why
Like
should I
God
believe
is.
that?
This is the thing. Why you should believe it's not an objective idea. The why, because mostly everything starts from a subjective idea. Not
Okay.
mostly. Everything starts from a subjective idea, while the process of it might be objective. For example, we don't know what gravity is, and we are not sure that all
I don't know what that means.
laws
I mean,
of
we know that, like, in as much as we know what anything is, we know that gravity is like the curvature of space-time.
yeah, but we don't know for sure. It's not a fact.
Okay, well, do we know for sure that God is real?
This is the thing. We don't. This
Okay.
is the idea. You don't prove. Look, you prove God not by an objective idea. You prove it by subjective idea. I know it's not scientific, but scientific, remember, scientific is what works within the big system, which is the universe.
So,
What works outside,
are you
it's
not going
above the
to...
system laws.
So are you going to try to
This is the
convince me
idea.
or no?
No, I'm
Because you're just
okay.
telling me about
The
systems.
subjective. Yeah.
Okay, if,
so
if you're not going to try to convince me, then I don't know what we're talking about.
look, I'm atheist myself.
Then get the fuck out of here,
But
bro. Bro just came up here for clout and to ramble. By the way, there's a priest up in here. Let's bring him up. Come on up, Sunset. You want to run your precept? You can do it. You said that they have no answer to precept. Don't run away, Sunset. Don't run away now. You were so brave in the comments.
Yo, dude. No,
There you
no,
are.
I'm having fun. I'm having fun watching just my wife. The past few days I've been on TikTok before it's about to go away. She's like, "Dude, you get on these debates and you don't stop." So I love it. I would love to talk to you. I'm following, having a good time. Just to transcend an argument. One second. Okay, hold on 1 second.
Oh, your audio is so much better. Oh, where'd he go?
Hey, what's up, man?
Welcome
I just
back.
think that as an atheist, you can't hold any moral, logical truths. Just because with atheism, you can't hold the truth at all. So it's all subjective.
So just to be clear, which God do you believe in, and how are you going to convince me of it?
The Orthodox Christian Trinity God.
Okay. So how are you going to convince me of that God?
So as far as like convincing you into it, I was actually determinist like real recently. So as far as like knowing like everything about the God, it'd be like a white belt. You know what I mean? And also in Orthodox Christianity, I'm not supposed to convince you to even join. It's just
Oh,
a part of it. Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, we actually don't like Protestants, which is really funny. It's what you're kind of used to whenever we refer
I'm
to
pretty sure.
Christians.
Wait, isn't? I'm pretty sure that Orthodox Christianity, insofar as it's like pretty closely related to like OG Catholicism, like I'm pretty sure it was like it spread like a lot via evangelism, right?
You have to be asked to preach, so you have to be asked of it.
Ah, okay.
But my argument
Well,
on
I've
God.
asked you.
Well, again, I'm not qualified to preach it to you. You know what I mean? Because I might make heresies. Does that make sense? So, I mean, just my argument as far as God, you don't even need to be my God. It's just a transcendental argument. You can't make a moral, logical claim of truth because you can't hold truth. There is no truth in your perspective. So everything that you do.
Can you justify that for me?
Sure. Oh, do you believe in truth?
It depends on what you mean, I guess. Do you mean like, do I think that propositions have truth values? Insofar as like conceptually, that's how we define them.
Well, we can even talk about morals. Do you believe in moral truths?
I am not a moral objectivist, if that's what you're asking.
Right. So how would you make a moral claim ever?
I make moral claims in some sort of like, what is the phrase?
Real quick. I'm sorry. Maybe I should preface it. Can you make a moral claim without making, basically saying like that's just my, that's just what I would like, basically. I mean,
yeah. So my definition of good and evil are things that align with my stances, or things that don't align with my stances. So
there's just preferences.
That's just how I define it. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can't make any moral claims. It's just preferences.
No, I can. They're literally moral preferences. Yeah.
Would they be true?
That insofar as that's how good and evil are defined, yeah.
Well, I mean, what would you consider good?
Things that align with my preferences and my stances.
Like?
Oh, you want an example?
Sure.
You know, donating to charity. Good.
Why is that? Why is that
Working
good?
at a soup kitchen, because it aligns with my stances.
What if I think that's bad?
Well, I don't care what you think. It's not your stances.
So how would you make a moral? So how would you make a moral claim? Like, for instance,
because it's about my stances.
As a society, so would you say that schmurder is wrong?
Yeah, because it's against my stances.
And what are those stances? Like, what are your principles?
So I generally care about minimizing harm. That's something that I care about. You know, all else being equal, of course. You can't always minimize harm, but within reason. I generally care about liberty. I generally care about equality. These are things that I generally care about, and so those are some of the guiding principles.
So what do you do if somebody disagrees with you on the harm principle? Like, for instance, I tell them
that they're evil, or I tell them that they're bad.
So if we all magically just took is it there? And I gotta get in real quick. My wife's gonna kill me. If everybody in the world took a pill, right, and that pill meant that we couldn't reproduce and we were all going to go extinct in however long our lives were. Do you feel like that's harmful?
I would think that's bad. I like people.
Right. So the continuation of humans is a positive thing, right?
I mean, I tend to like humans, yeah, but I might be biased.
So LGBT, if everybody turned gay tomorrow, that would be a harmful, negative thing.
I mean, you can still, that gay people can still reproduce, right?
Hypothetically, as far as like if we all immediately didn't like the sex, we didn't want to reproduce.
No, but you can reproduce without having sex.
Of course you
can.
Like
technology.
Sure. Well, without making she's already like, what are you doing? All right. Anyways, this is fun, dude. I'm gonna keep watching. I'll be back. We'll talk.
All right. Take care. All right, let's talk to Jesus with some purple crosses in his name. God, my computer is running so slow. Like, it just cannot handle it. Jesus, you're not allowed to join. For some reason, you're banned or something. All right, let's bring up... It's so slow. It's not even showing me... Oh my god, I'm sorry. This is unbearable. I do need a PC upgrade really bad. All right, let's bring up Vincent. No, I actually never got the dude's email yesterday. Absolutely, yeah. Hey, how's it going, Vincent?
you hear me?
I can. What do you believe in? Which God do you believe in? And can you convince me of
Christianity.
it? Okay. Can you convince me of it?
Christianity.
Sure.
Damn, I don't know. Well, I try, you know.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, I think there has to be some beginning of time and the universe shit, you know,
Why?
because everything has like a design,
You
like
think so?
nature.
Do
I
like
think so, yes.
do like black holes have a design?
Well, I don't. Well, I didn't study black holes, so I don't really know, but I think so, yes.
But like, how do you tell if something has a design and something doesn't have a design? What's the feature that you use to tell the difference?
Hey, Blitz, I gotta tell you something.
Go on, get out of here.
I'm actually an atheist. I'm actually an atheist.
That's a good way to get banned, by the way. If you come up here and you troll or play devil's advocate, I will ban you. I will just block you. All right, we have a guest from YouTube. Howdy, howdy. Can you hear me all right, Seeker? I cannot hear you. Don't know why, but I can't hear you. And I don't think anybody else can hear you either. Hopefully the video will pop in just a moment, but for some reason your video's here, just a moment, but your audio's not connecting.
Okay, hold on.
Your video's here, but your audio's not connecting. Give me a... it's saying that I should hear you. Give me a... And yet... And yet I cannot. This live is on YouTube, yeah. Let me try muting you and then unmuting you, maybe? This live is on YouTube, yeah. Try refreshing Seeker. Muting you and then unmuting you, maybe?
Refresh.
Try refreshing Seeker.
All right.
Oh, there was an echo? Oh, you hear me twice. You hear me twice. That's interesting. I can't explain that. I don't know why you hear me twice. Can you hear me all right? Testing, 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 testing. So I can't hear you. You are currently, like, you're not saying anything as of yet. You heard me through guest. That's strange. I wasn't picking up any audio at all. You there, Seeker? Let me try this. Says your connection's okay. Can you hear me, Seeker? Testing, testing. Okay, but I can't hear anything that you're saying. One sec. Why are there always these tech problems? Who knows? My computer does have performance anxiety. Look, I know how to build a computer. I've done it before. This isn't an issue of I don't know how to build a computer. It's that I haven't upgraded my computer. All right, you've been unmuted. Can you hear me all right? I can hear you perfectly. Great. All right, give me one more. Give me some more audio, please. They can't hear you, but I know how to fix that. All right, go ahead one more time. Still nothing. Okay, so TikTok can hear you. Can YouTube hear?
I don't know. I'm just logged into my computer, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, no. It's just really finicky. Oh, wait, no, I think it's working. It should be working. Yeah, I think we're good. So, I'm just give me 5 seconds.
All right.
On YouTube, let's just verify that they can hear.
Check, 1, 2.
Okay, we're good. Yeah.
Can anybody
They say you sound like a
Alright,
robot.
cool.
It says you're roboting, but that I can fix, I think.
Okay.
Give me just one moment. Sorry, I need to fix it over here. Audio settings.
No problem. No worries.
Let's just turn on a compressor. And let's just refresh your microphone. That usually fixes it. Reconnect mic. All right.
I had to refresh a couple times.
Okay, anyway, so what do you believe? Can you convince me of it?
Sure. So to begin,
Okay.
I am a Christian. And I was thinking about your question, like how do I convince you? The best place to start is, what are some of your objections to believing or having faith in, let's just say, Christianity?
I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, there's kind of two sides to the objection. First, like, there's this kind of metaphysical idea that, like, God is this perfect being that loves us and can do anything and knows everything, and that seems just, like, on the face, if such a being existed, I would think that the world would be better. But then there's the other side, where it's just like, you're telling me that in order to believe in this God, I have to believe that a dude 2,000 years ago rose from the dead? Like, it just seems super implausible.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, things, and I'm going to try to use scripture as best I can. I'm not perfect at it. But one of the things I think about when I think of faith and believing in God
is scripture. And one of the things that scripture says is, in order to have a relationship with God, you need to believe in Christ, right? So what is the convincing factor then? How do you choose to believe in something you don't see? How do you choose to believe in something that you only hear other people talking about? And all I can do is speak from my experience.
I have seen a lot in my life where God has shown up for me. And I would sit in church for hours, just like fidgeting and not really paying attention and trying to, not really listening to what the preacher was saying, in faith.
Okay.
But since then, I have fallen away from faith and come back. And one of the things that I will say is that my relationship with Christ is personally the experience of having a relationship with Him. So you're stuck in a place where you're saying, I don't believe, but the Bible says
why
you
should
must
I?
believe.
Like, if I don't
That's
believe,
the
why should I
point.
listen to the Bible?
That's right. And I think God does intervene sometimes in people's lives to show them or bring people into. Unfortunately, the world today, Christians aren't what they should be, right? They speak of a perfect God. They speak of a perfect being. You should be perfect yourself, right? You should strive to become perfect yourself, but yeah, we don't have that kind of the world to see
Christians because they're not living up to the standard. But the standard, if you read scripture, was never perfection. The standard was to believe in Christ, and the standard was to put your faith in him and let him change you from the inside out by the way you think. I don't know if I'm getting to the point or not, but
no, I know what you mean, but like, look, like, if I have this, so I have a predisposition that like certain things are possible and certain things aren't possible. So like, for example, it's super possible for like, I don't know, an emperor to go to a village and execute 100 people. That's a thing that can happen. It's totally possible.
Right.
It seems impossible to me for a dude to rise from the dead.
Right.
And if believing that is critical for faith in Jesus or for faith in God or whatever, I don't see why anybody would ever believe that. It sounds ludicrous.
Yeah, I understand. It's hard to quantify something that happened 2,000 years ago. It's hard to quantify miracles. It's hard to quantify things of the supernatural, right? So what I will tell you, do you have a minute? Can I tell you a story of something that happened to me?
I generally am not interested in personal stories because they're not very convincing to anybody. But I appreciate you asking.
All right, no problem. Yeah, I mean, it's all I can say is I've had personal experiences where God has intervened in my life, and there was a time when God actually saved me from
getting in an accident. I can't explain it any other way. If I can't, like,
say what made me do this, what made me do that, and it's like the circumstances lined up in such a way
that I avoided an accident, right? Experience.
Are there so you don't think that there's any possible explanation? Any possible alternative explanation?
Other than God intervening in that moment, no, I don't see any other explanation.
I mean, why couldn't it have just been random chance?
The only way for me to tell you about it is for me to tell you about it.
All right, go ahead. You talked me into it.
All right. I had...
But keep it short if you can.
Yeah, I will. I'll keep it short. I had dropped my son off at his kindercare place. I was pulling up to the light. It was a cold day. And something, I can't explain it, like prompted me to roll down my window. And I'm like, why?
It's freezing out. I don't want to roll down my window. So anyway, I rolled down the window. And the light turned green at the intersection. And I didn't go because I heard a car coming. It would have hit me. And so to me, that experience was like supernatural because, like, why would I roll down my window without some kind of prompt?
Have you never just rolled down your window just because?
I think God speaks and like, sure, but it wasn't like that. It was a cold day and I had no reason to roll down the window. So I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like there are times when you just roll down the window, but it wasn't like that. In my experience, it was like something actually like prompted me to roll down the window.
Could it not have been that you subconsciously heard something, or that you felt the vibration subconsciously?
No, I don't think so. I understand what you're saying. Like maybe there was some kind of evidence to like maybe roll down the window, but it was not like I rolled down the window and immediately a car went by. I rolled down the window, waited a few seconds, and then a car blew the red light. So I can understand. You can pick anything apart, and that's fine. And I don't mean it like that. I just mean like you can find reasons not to believe. And I think one of the things, if you want to believe...
But this is like a super mundane thing. Like you happen to roll your window down. It's not... Like, if you had told me that you had regrown an amputated leg, then I'd be like, wow, maybe I should be a Christian. But if your testimony is, yeah, I rolled the window down once. Like, I don't know, man. Is it like really that convincing to you?
I don't know. I guess it was to me just because of the way it happened.
So have you ever had this experience where like you tell someone your dream and like the dream was super awesome and you tell someone about it and then like the person doesn't care because you sound like a crazy person when you tell them about your awesome dream?
Sure.
So like that's how it feels when people tell me their testimony and I'm just like, this is not remarkable. You just rolled down your window.
Yeah, I understand.
But and look, I understand that the way that things can seem when they're conveyed can be very different from the way that you actually experienced it. Just like with a dream. Dreams can be amazing, and then you tell like I'll tell my wife about some like amazing dream I had, and then she'll be like, Okay. And it's just like not a big deal. Like it's just like, okay, whatever. Who cares? So look, all I'm saying that's generally why I'm not interested in testimony, because it just sounds like somebody telling me their cool dream.
So what would be something convincing to you? I guess I guess I don't understand, because you start with when you come to faith, it's about belief, and so if you're not willing to believe, how do you come to a place of belief?
Well, I would imagine that, so the way that I try to come to like form my beliefs is, through some reasonable basis. So like, if I believe that, I don't know, that my wife loves me, well, I might be like, she's going out on dates with me. Does she love me? Or maybe she's just being nice. She married me. Does she love me? Or maybe she's just being nice. After a certain point, I'm like, maybe she actually does love me, right? And so like, I build up a rational, or a set of rational beliefs based off of the things that happen to me, or based off of the way that I think about things. Or maybe like I believe that, there's a rover on Mars. And why do I believe that? Well, I've seen videos of it, and I have good reason to think that these videos are, believable, and so on, and so I form a belief about that. So like, or maybe I also believe that like 3 + 4 is 7, and I believe that because there's good like logical arguments that make it true. So like, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can come to belief. But all of the ways that at least as far as I can tell, the ways that I come to my belief are through, at least I'd like to think, some sort of reasonable or rational means, like, some sort of evidence or experience or logical deduction or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I can understand where you're coming from. I will say this, like, if you're interested in believing, and if you're really looking for answers, I would put myself in a place where you are around other Christians, if that's the path that you choose to take.
I'm around other Christians all the time on this live.
Okay.
Like
no, I mean like not live. I'm not talking about chat rooms. I'm talking about real relationships, like getting close to people, having like I'm not saying you have to go to church, but like finding believers that can speak to you and like, feed into your life. You said the example of your wife, showing you and giving you proof that she loves you. Like, to
still
me,
not
like,
still not convinced, by the way. Maybe she's just being nice.
So you're a hardcore
I'm kidding.
skeptic,
Like
then.
it's just that joke. Like, she
like,
wants to have my
dang.
children. Does she love me, or is she just being nice?
All right, cool. So I mean, if you're really searching, like, I would get out of the chat and go into
To a place where you're actually getting to know other believers, other Christians. I'm not saying they're going to be able to convince you.
I mean, for what it's worth,
to
one of my
me,
best friends is
it's
like a
all about
hardcore Christian. So
Yeah. That's really cool.
He's I mean, I longer than I've known him, and it's been 13 years. I mean, he's so Christian that he wouldn't dance at my wedding. So he's very religious.
That to me, like, that's not what I believe. Like, I'm not that like strict about things like that. But like, I would believers that maybe like a non-denominational believer, someone that's not like so strict. I think people can become religious.
I mean, I know,
and
like,
get
I'm good
stuck
friends with
on
other
the
Christians
idea.
too. Like,
Okay.
like you have to understand, if you live in the West, most of the people you know are Christians, right? At least, so I mean, 60% of
Maybe.
60% of the United States is Christian, right? Yes.
Is that true?
Actually, I think it's more than 60%.
Okay.
It might be more than
In
60%.
what way, though, right?
What
Like
percentage
Catholic
of
or
Americans are
non-denominational
Christian?
Christian,
So,
Baptist.
65% of adults in the United States identified themselves as Christian.
Okay.
And I guess 15% are Baptist, 6% are non-denominational, 5% are Methodist, 5% are Pentecostal, 3.5% are Lutheran, and then there's like 20% or something that's Catholic or something like that.
Have you ever been to church?
I have
I'm just curious.
been inside of churches.
Okay.
Have
You
I?
ever like attended like a?
I don't think so. I've been to Christian religious things. Thank you, Ludums, for the $2. Like weddings and stuff, but I don't think I've actually been to a Christian sermon.
Okay. That's
in
curious.
the Czech Republic. I live in
the Czech Republic.
I live in famously the most atheist country in Europe, but I'm not from here. I'm moving away in a few months for work.
Okay.
Yeah.
You live in Europe then. Okay. I don't really will because I've lived here my whole life. But where are you moving to the States?
Yeah.
when
No,
you
I mean I'm
leave,
from the
or-
States. Like I just moved here for work.
Okay. All right. Well, I like non-denominational. That works for me. They believe, in relationship with Christ. They believe, it's not about perfection. It's about the same thing to me in my faith is having the relationship with God through Christ, and then also having the relationship with people in the church. It's hard faith when you're surrounded by people who are gonna encourage you to not believe.
I mean,
because there's always gonna be someone speaking into your life and something to believe in. You need to find people that also believe so they can give you their, experiences and show you how they have lived and how they have come to faith. And again, that's a
why should I want to believe?
That's a good question. Should you, right? There's no reason to believe in God. There's no reason to believe in anything that is a higher power. Believe there's an afterlife. I believe there's evidence enough to show that when we die, our souls leave our body. And there's been experiments, there's been things that have shown goes on to somewhere. And if it goes on to somewhere, where's it going to go? Is it going to be reincarnated? Is it going to go to heaven? Is it going to go to hell?
I have no evidence of there being a hell. I have no evidence of there being a heaven, except for what the Bible says. And
that again is about faith, and that is about believing in something that we don't understand. That doesn't mean we will never be given answers, and that doesn't mean our reasons to believe. I've seen demonic things. I've seen, like I told you about that moment when I believe God saved me from getting in that accident. I've seen me personally a lot of things that convinces me there is something more. Follow the trail. It's going to lead ultimately to a God or a devil. And I think that's the place, that I've come to in my life that has convinced me.
Well,
I
mean, I get that it's convinced you. I just don't see why I should
I lost
believe.
your audio.
Oh, can you hear me? Audio check. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you through my phone, but I can't hear.
Oh.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So, look, like I understand that that's why you believe. I'm just not sure why I need, why I should believe. But look, I'm gonna let you go because the audio is really bad.
Okay.
But thanks for being here, Seeker. I appreciate you a lot. Okay. Have a good rest of your day. All right.
Man, appreciate it.
Take care.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye bye. Sorry about the audio, guys. I don't know what's going on. Apparently on TikTok it was fine, but on YouTube it's not, and I don't understand that at all. Like, I understand it negative amount. It is baffling. All right, we are going to bring up Ralph Lauren Sucker. Ralph Lauren.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, hi. You're gonna hate me for this because I'm an undergraduate physics student.
I already
so
hate you. That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But anyway,
apologies
you were
for
saying.
the noise in the background. My 3D printer's going. So my belief is not necessarily based in a typical theistic standpoint, as in the Abrahamic gods or anything of that sort of like scripture based. It's more of the fine-tuning argument is what I'm gonna be arguing, if that's okay with you.
By all means.
Yeah. So my main point is specifically is with relation to like the Higgs field and gravity and their ratio. And I remember reading it was like 10 to the minus 36. Like if there was that much little change in it, then you'd either result in, rather than an expanding universe, you'd result in the Big Crunch, or you'd end up in the Big Rip very early on within the early universe.
So
is that
which one do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the Higgs mass, or do you want to talk about, or rather the Higgs mass, or do you want to talk about, sorry, not the Higgs mass, the Higgs Vev, or do you want to talk about like Big G?
More of the ratio between the two, as in they're so perfectly aligned in their interaction with each other that matter is able to exist in a stable state long enough for the universe to expand and stars form and galaxies and all that.
My understanding is that you could rescale Big G by a factor of 50%, and you'd still have a universe that is still exists long enough in order to have, like, complex stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that. It's more of how the Higgs field interacts with Big G.
Well,
if that makes sense.
Right. So if you keep the Higgs field fixed and you rescale Big G by 50% either direction, then the ratio would change by 50% in either direction, and you still have life. So what's the problem?
Specifically the Higgs then.
Okay, but the Higgs can be easily explained by like anthropic reasoning, because the Higgs is truly a random process. And if you have a big enough universe, then you can have different pockets of the universe with different regions of the Higgs Vev.
Yeah, no, definitely. Are you talking about the weak anthropic principle or the strong anthropic principle?
I don't like the distinction between the two.
Okay.
I like, especially because not everybody agrees on which one's weak and which one's strong.
Okay.
But essentially, what I mean is that given that you have a random process that can take on many values, and you have enough independent samples of that values so that each possible value is attained somewhere, then it is wholly expected that if life will ever exist, it will exist in the place where it is possible for life to exist, in one of these, samples.
Okay.
So that's all I'm saying.
Okay. So arguably, I know this is taking a more philosophical point, but I just want to see your stance on this before I go into my next bit. Would you argue that, then anywhere life can exist, observers will exist, right?
Well, not necessarily, but if observers are going to exist, they will find themselves in places where they can exist.
Where life exists, yeah. So arguably, given that we know the only known place to us where life exists, obviously statistically it's probable that there's other life out there, but argue that we only know so far categorically that life exists on Earth. Would you argue that you're a geocentrist then? Because
you can be a geocentrist if you want, but being in the center of the universe doesn't make it more probable that life exists, right?
No, exactly. But argue the meaning only exists within life, and therefore the only place that we know.
That's true.
Really?
There's meaning outside. Yeah, I care. I think that black holes are cool. I care about black holes. I think the universe would be less meaningful if there were no black holes.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from that, but in regards to actual meaning, I say meaningful, and meaningful in the way that humans define meaningful, as in
am I not a human?
Well, I don't know, but I can't speak. I think therefore I am. I can't speak for anyone else, but in regards to actual our lived experience and how we see meaning in a sentimental value in our lives, shall we say? Because it's obviously a product of human psychology.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so, okay, so you with me on that one? That given that this is the only place we know it exists, therefore geocentrism is kind of back. But
why would that make geocentrism true?
Well, given that the only place that we know meaning exists is here, and given the only place we know observers exist, and for meaning in that sense to exist, observers have to exist, the only place where meaning exists and observers exist at the same time is in Earth, and therefore if life is defined by our current lived experiences, then the only point of meaning in regards to life is here.
When you say point of meaning, are you referring to, are you saying that that gives us a well-defined reference frame or something?
Yeah, I'm trying to argue the reference frame.
Yeah, so you look, geocentrism is as valid as heliocentrism insofar as all reference frames are equally valid. Just because one of them has meaning doesn't make it preferred in some relativistic sense.
Yeah, sorry. Someone what do you call it?
Don't read the comments, they're gonna be mean to you.
No, someone's just the music, and I was like, it's a 3D printer in the back.
That's hilarious.
I can pause the print if you want. Give me a sec.
It's not bothering me, but if it's bothering other people, you probably should, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pausing the print now, don't worry. There we go. That better, everyone? Is everyone okay with that now?
They should be. By the way, I missed a gift from Ayesha. Thank you for the $5, Ayesha. I appreciate you. Anyway, we're saying.
Yeah, so my point is that obviously we've argued this reference frame that's here effectively, right?
Yep.
And so we're saying that we're the only observers that we know of, at least. And so would you not argue that given what I say, meaning, Earth is not inherently special besides life?
Sure.
Because all our ingredients are incredibly common throughout the universe. However, here's the only place that we know there is life, right?
Sure.
And so would you not argue that combined with the fine-tuning argument that the universe is so finely tuned that everything works the way it does and it allows for life to exist, would you not argue that gives some sort of meaning in itself?
Well, I don't know if the universe is finely tuned. So I kind of reject the premise.
Okay. What would you speak about? I'm stumbling on my words here. Sorry. What would you think about the existence of dark energy? Obviously, we don't know exactly what it does, what it is, but we know obviously it's anti-gravitational properties, and we know that is balancing. Well, I say balancing. Obviously, expansion's winning currently, and we don't know if we're at critical density, so therefore we don't know if we're gonna rip or if we're gonna eventually crunch back down. But would you not argue that the existence of dark energy allows for it's coming back to an equal and opposite, effectively. I will say I'm paraphrasing. I'm saying there is an opposite to the expansion. There is an opposite to the gravitation of our universe, effectively, right? And it's allowing for expansion, right?
Yep.
And therefore, the fact that is even allowed to happen in the first place, obviously with the Higgs mass and gravity, and obviously the ratio to the strong force and the weak force, and allowing for atoms to form and things like that, would you not argue that that's finely tuned?
I mean, if there was no dark energy, then the universe would still exist. It would just not live for another 50 billion years or 100 trillion years. It just might only live for another 5 or 10 billion years, but that's not an issue.
Well, it's not an issue to us, but in the
so that means that it's not finely tuned. It could have been another way, and it would have been fine. We still would have existed. Life would have still been permitted.
Okay, so you're arguing that if the universe has an end, then it's not finely tuned?
No, what I'm saying is that
someone's guessed that I'm Welsh. I am Welsh. Is it actually?
It might be the accent.
Nobody knows I'm from Wales. Everyone thinks I'm from Surrey. So sorry.
Anyway, so what I'm saying is that in order for something to be finely tuned, you have to show that by varying something even the tiniest bit, you lose life. You lose the possibility of life. But you could just completely turn off dark energy, and you could still have life in the universe.
Exactly, but
so then it's not really finely tuned in that regard.
But it's not necessarily dependent on life. It's dependent on the universe as a whole.
So then, what is the universe finely tuned for in your view?
To exist.
The universe is finely tuned to exist. How do you know it could have not existed? Because, like, even if you changed all of the constants, the universe would still exist. It just might look really different.
It might not have lasted very long. It might have been born and died.
Wait, do you think that the universe can just end?
Well, no, not necessarily end in the classical sense. Obviously, we know that there's three outcomes effectively. You're at critical density, yeah, eventually it expands and tends to zero, never actually reaches zero, but it tends to zero. Then you've got the big rip, so far the expansion overtakes gravity and everything's pretty much ripped apart. And then obviously you've got the big crunch, where...
But the big crunch isn't necessarily the end of the universe, right?
Well, you're arguing cyclical universe.
Yeah, you could have that, or it could be that the universe expands and then collapses into a big crunch, but that only happens locally. It could be that there's more expansion elsewhere, like...
Oh, so you're arguing that parts of the universe could crunch?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other options besides just the universe, and either the universe expands forever asymptotically, or it ends, and then nothing exists after that. In fact, I find it really hard to believe that it's even possible for nothing to exist.
Well, what happened before the Big Bang then?
Well, I think that the universe existed before the Big Bang.
In non-physical form?
No, I think it probably existed in some physical form, like a universe.
Really?
Just not like ours.
What's your reason
I mean,
behind
there's
that?
a whole bunch of different models where you can have an eternal universe that's compatible with Big Bangs. Like you could have an infinitely collapsing universe in the past that is infinitely old, and then it's collapsing towards singularity, and then it re-expands on the other side. No, that's not cyclic in particular. It's just infinite in both directions.
Oh, it's just infinite in both directions. Oh, kind of like the. Oh, right.
It's just like a time reversal of the death. You could also have like a cyclic universe. You could have like a budding universe. You could have eternal inflation. There's like a whole bunch of different models.
Okay. So what would you say to... I know I'm moving the goalposts here a little bit, but what would you say to the argument of mathematics is not discovered, the fact that it's the language of the universe?
I think it is. I think it's invented.
You think it's invented, not necessarily an accurate way to describe the universe?
No, I think that we invented a good way to describe the universe. In the same way that we invented, language to describe trees and rocks and lions, we invented mathematics to describe the universe.
But say an alien civilization came up with their own way to describe the universe in
maybe they would.
the same processes that we're describing, and using the same, obviously, like constants, not necessarily constants, but you know what I mean. Like they discovered the constants, they know what they do and how they interact, and would that not just be mathematics?
Well, look, so whatever they invent when they're describing the universe, they're describing the same universe that we are. So
exactly.
They're gonna have so just like how you compare Chinese and English, the languages are different, but they're describing the same thing. So you're gonna have grammar, you're gonna have words for things like you're gonna have a word for water, you're gonna have a word for sky, and so they will have a different language for describing these things, but it will have a lot of similarities because it's a language describing the same thing.
Exactly. So would you not argue that there's an underlying point, well, not even of the existence of the universe and being able to be described would you not argue that that's... I'm trying to articulate what I mean. My point is, as in the fact that something can be quantified in that sense.
I mean, is it surprising that we can describe the sky with English?
No, but the fact that we're able to, the fact that it's something that's actually quantifiable and observable and predictable.
I don't think that's any more surprising than our ability to use language at all.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the fact that it's predictable and that we're able.
That's an interesting feature of our universe. That our universe has like consistent behavior, but
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think
so
that doesn't have anything to do with mathematics. I don't think
would you not argue that's the point of fine tuning?
I don't know if it could have been any other way. I know, I haven't read these, but I've heard about philosophical justification for the consistency of the universe without, like, from an atheist perspective. And
Right. Okay.
I heard about this like 2 days ago, and it's on my reading list. But like, yeah, as it stands, the fact that the universe is consistent and like kind of, like, in some, yeah, consistent is the best word.
Finely tuned.
Well, I wouldn't say finely tuned, because, you know, finely tuned has this very specific meaning, and it's not that. The fact that the universe is consistent is just something that I think is true. I don't know why it's true. I don't know if it could have been any other way. I can't even prove it's true, to be honest, but it definitely seems that way.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely seems that way. Obviously, we're not without a unified field theory, we can't test properly. But would you not say that it obviously anything that can happen will happen in an infinite universe, right?
With high probability, yeah.
With high probability,
with
like
probability
obviously
approaching 1, sure.
Yeah, because if the probability of something is like ridiculously, and the universe isn't that old, obviously the probability isn't that it's not going to happen within certain periods of time, right?
Sure.
So would you not argue that obviously, assuming that the universe is consistent with its like processes, and that we're able to determine what it's going to do and how it's going to do it, and we're able to consistently prove this, and would you say that there was a universe where it could be truly random, right? And I'm
no, I don't know. I don't know why I would think that that's the case. If the universe is consistent, then it would be impossible for it to not be consistent.
Exactly, in our universe. But I'm saying,
Are we talking about other universes that may or may not exist?
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't even know if other universes exist.
Exactly, but in a hypothetical universe, in a hypothetical universe, would it? And it's completely random, right? Obviously, true randomness doesn't actually exist, but you know what I mean. Yeah, completely random, and nothing follows order, and it's not predictable at all, or to the best of our chaos theory, we can't prove it. Would you not say that because that is truly random and ours is predictable, ours is finely tuned to be predictable and to act a certain way?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know why randomness is more likely than consistency.
No, exactly. It's not more likely, but I'm saying
right. But in order for something to be finely and maybe I don't know how old you are, how long you've been doing this, but what makes fine-tuning arguments powerful and what makes them even arguments at all is that it gives you credence. It increases your credence in a certain set of beliefs. So if you say that such and such a thing, like let me give an example. Let's say that you have a 6-sided die.
Yep.
And you roll a die, you roll it over and over again, and 100 times in a row you get a 6.
Yep.
Well, either you got really, really lucky, or it was fine-tuned, which means that it was weighted, that somebody was putting their thumb on the scales. And so what fine-tuning is about is it's about making an argument for low probabilities of some contrary position. But if you're saying that consistency, if you're not saying that consistency is inherently less likely than randomness, well then you don't have a fine-tuning argument.
Maybe my term of fine-tuning is misplaced. My point is that given that the universe is highly predictable, to the best of our understanding of physics and mathematics, right? And we can generally, obviously without making a new discovery, we can generally predict what's going to happen. And we know that all the ingredients for life exist in our universe. They're fairly common. However, you know, we're the only observers in our known reference frame, right? And that can exist because anything that can exist will exist with a high probability in an infinite universe. Would you not say that given that it's so predictable, that obviously life was supposed to exist because our universe is predictable?
Well, not really. I mean, you could have a predictable universe without life.
Yes, but with our current universe standards, right? With all our ingredients, given that the universe is so predictable, then life existing is a product of that predictable universe, and therefore was set out to be like in existence with it. Basically, the probability was supposed to tend to 1 for life.
Well, I don't know if that's really like. You could make the exact same argument and say that, well, because our universe is so predictable, the universe was fine-tuned for black holes. Because there's a lot more black holes than there are people.
Exactly.
But the point is that you can then say that you can then say that any universe that has anything in it is fine-tuned for that thing.
Exactly.
But that makes the argument vacuous, right? It makes the argument kind of hold no water, because then there's no universe that's not fine-tuned.
Exactly, because I believe that the universe, obviously not like an intelligent
There's
creator.
there's not even a hypothetical universe that's not fine-tuned.
No, exactly. That's my point. But anything that has anything in it, for something to exist, there has to be something there that makes it. Not. I'm not trying to make those something out of nothing argument. You know what I mean?
Well, you are making that argument.
I'm not trying. I'm not trying to. I'm very aware that. But my point is that for something to exist in a universe that is completely predictable, there has to be something that's making the probability 10 to 1.
Something to exist in a universe that's completely predictable. Why?
Well, probabilities are inherently random.
Well, no,
right?
but like, look. So, let's say that you just have a universe that is orderly, right?
Yep.
It's predictable. It's going to have some things in it, like even if it's a completely random, predictable universe, because you could have a whole bunch of different
processes that make it random.
A whole bunch of different random or a whole bunch of different consistent universes, or consistent universes that are otherwise random. Like you set the laws of physics down and then you just pick the constants out of a bucket completely randomly, right?
Yeah.
Most of those are orderly,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean that and they'll have stuff in them. They might just have protons, or they might just have whatever, but they'll have something in them. But that doesn't mean it's finely tuned, because they'll all have stuff in them.
The fact that it has stuff in it
but
means...
every universe would have stuff in it.
Well, you said it yourself. You've hard to believe that nothing exists. Why is that?
I don't even think it makes sense metaphysically.
Exactly. So therefore, there must be something making things exist rather than nothing existing.
Well, why is the default nothing exists rather than the default something exists?
Because we've seen that something exists. Therefore,
So in fact, the default should be that something exists, that nothing can exist. That should be the default position. So then you don't need anything to cause that to happen. It's just default. That's just the default nature of the universe.
Exactly,
the default
but
nature
why?
Of reality. But
why?
Well, because it's the default.
Yeah,
why would it be the other way?
I don't. That's the argument that I'm making, but in reverse. It's why would it be the other way?
So we have good reason to suspect that the default position should be something rather than nothing, because there is something rather than nothing.
Exactly.
So we actually have no reason to suspect that there ever could have been nothing, whether or not there was a cause for it. There never could have been nothing.
Exactly. So arguably, you could say that as the default, there is something. So therefore, something must cause these things to exist.
Why?
And then I'm going to come up with the something out of nothing argument.
But that's inherently assuming that nothing is the default. But why should we assume that?
Why should we assume that things exist with?
Why should we assume that nothing is the default?
That you've got me stumped on that. That I couldn't tell you because I don't know myself. However, there could be a universe out there where nothing exists.
Well, if there's a universe, then it has something in it. It has a universe, right?
Exactly. So then the fact that so arguably you could say on the fact that given that we don't know the multiverse exists, assuming that we're the only universe, given that there's no universes, there is nothing in it.
Well, no, there is a universe. There's this one.
There's no other universe, is what I meant.
Yeah. This is just saying that this universe is all of physical reality.
Exactly. So could then be a non-physical reality. That's
There
that's
could
the
be,
point.
but I don't know why I should believe that.
It's the same with why I should believe that anything exists. Like,
Well, you can just see stuff. Like I can see this water bottle, right? And so that's
but
I have
I'm
good
not.
reason to
I'm
believe
not a
that this water
reliable
bottle is.
observer.
What?
I'm not a reliable observer.
I mean, if you can't trust your senses, I don't know what you can trust.
Nothing. That's the point.
So
Skepticism at its finest.
So are you a brain in a vat?
I very much could be. You know, I very much.
So then, why did you come on here to try to convince me of something that you believe if you're a true skeptic?
Because I believe that statistically, it's more probable to believe.
Where did you learn those statistics? From a book that you read with your eyes? How do you know that the book wasn't lying to you?
It very well could have been, which is why I'm coming here to debate.
Why do you believe it? Why do you believe your statistics book, nerd?
I don't know. I'm a big fan of mathematics. What can I say?
Yeah, but all the mathematics, it could have just been like a robot lying to you. Like you could just be a brain in a vat.
I very much could be. We could be in a simulation. You don't know.
So why do you have any beliefs?
Well, I argue even on the point of if we say the simulation, right? Obviously, and we're getting into like dodgy territory here, right?
No, we are way beyond simulation. You are the only brain that exists.
Well, I'm not. Well, cogito, like I think therefore I am, right?
Yeah. So do you have any reason to think that anything else exists except yourself? Right.
No.
So then why do you believe in a god?
I don't necessarily believe in God in the theistic sense, like I said before, but I believe in there is something. I guess I'd probably say like I'm probably more on the like agnostic side, but more leaning towards the belief in there being something, obviously not like intelligent design or something like that, but something causing the existence.
What if it was just a previous state that caused the existence?
Then what caused that previous state?
The previous state before that.
And what caused before that?
The one before that.
And then before that, exactly. And then it becomes almost like infinite, right?
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Well, and then you're arguing an infinite universe.
Yeah.
So then why should I believe in an infinite universe?
Well, is there any reason to not believe in it? Or
Well,
should you just be agnostic about it?
Well, currently the only evidence we've seen is one universe, right? We don't know.
I'm talking about an infinitely or like an eternal universe, not like more than one universe.
Oh right, okay, yeah, okay. So then, if the universe is infinite, what allowed it to exist?
Well, if it's infinite, it didn't need a creator; it just always existed.
Exactly, but what is the thing that allows 3D space?
Why do things need a thing to allow them to exist? It's like a really weird philosophical like claim that I don't know why. Like I don't know where you got that from. Like
I don't know.
Do I need something to allow me to exist? No, I kind of just exist, right?
Well, you need your parents.
No, but they stopped. Like I don't need them anymore. Like they made me.
No, but they brought you
now
into
I'm here,
existence.
and I don't need something to like sustain my existence.
Food, water.
I mean, like I could just stop doing any of that, and then in a few minutes, if I stop breathing, or a few days if I stop drinking, like then I will cease to exist. But right now, I could just stop doing all of that, and I would still exist.
Exactly. So there is something that allows it to exist. It allows you to exist up until a certain point.
Well, no, right. So nothing is that. There are things that are required in order for like a process to continue. But like what? Okay, better question. Less rife with potential human flaws.
Yeah.
Why do you think that like something is needed to sustain an electromagnetic field? Like you can just have a photon just traveling through space. It'll just do that forever unless it hits something. Nothing's sustaining it. I don't know what that means.
Well, the existence of the electromagnetic field is sustaining it.
Okay, so then we could just say, well, the existence of the electromagnetic field just exists.
But it's a product of the
Why
universe.
does that need to be sustained?
It's a product of the universe. Therefore, the universe existing allows it to.
Well, I don't think that that's true. I think it's a part. I think it's like a piece of the universe.
Exactly.
So, then you're saying that it causes itself, which maybe it does. Maybe that's what you're trying to say, but.
Yeah, it's saying it's causing itself to exist, effectively, right?
Yeah, but then it doesn't need something external to sustain itself.
So then, arguably, I think the logical conclusion I'm coming to is the universe is God.
All right, well, now welcome to atheism, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
You got there. All right, Ralph
I
Lauren,
got
I'm gonna
there
let you
eventually.
go.
Thank you very much.
But thanks for being here,
Thank
bud.
you very much. Cheers.
Good luck in your studies. Oh, I cut him off early. Sorry about that. But good luck in your studies. And if, well, TikTok's going away. But if TikTok doesn't go away, feel free to DM me if you need any advice. Is there... Aaron Leets, thank you for the $5. Is there an ultimate reality? Why does it need an explanation at all? Oh. Wait, was that a question for me? Yeah, I don't... that's a good question. That's the point. If the universe is like the fundamental thing, why does it need an explanation? All right, let's open up the guest box. Oh no, actually, we have another guest on... We have 2 guests on YouTube, so we're actually going to take a YouTube guest. Hopefully the audio won't be terrible. Let us... Thank you for the flying jets, Nated. Let's unmute Mike. Mike, can you hear me all right? Oh, you have some echo, Mike. I do, but I can hear me twice. And I think that's Okay. Apparently there's echo. Let me double check. Try. It's good now. I think it's good now. One sec. Yeah. Yeah, I started the middle of 2022.
Yeah,
so that's been a while
it's
then, huh?
crazy that I'm talking to you now, and I feel like this is, I'm seeing you at TikTok. So
Yeah.
I feel like this is like the end chapter of TikTok.
Yeah, tell me about it.
All right, so
all right, so what do we got? Hold on, caller.
I'm a shy guy right now, so I'm kind of like trying to convey my words correctly, and let's start. I don't know how much time can you give me.
I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes. Depends on how interesting you are, I guess.
All right. I'm really boring. All right.
So what you got for me? What do you believe?
Start with. Man, I believe.
Oh, give me one sec. I just spilled water on my.
A lot of things. Oh, that's divine justice right there.
One sec. Just spilled water on my keyboard. Don't mind me. I'll be right back. Yeah. Entertain chat.
I think God did that.
All right. You were saying.
Yeah, man, I love your flames on the back. You look almost like you're in hell.
I mean, tell me about it.
Very nice touch.
Yeah, I thought so.
So,
I mean, if it's where I'm going, I may as well get ready, right?
Right, that's what the Bible says. Little background of me. I'm American Latino. My parents, they're Latino, Christian as you can be. A lot of people don't know about Latino households, but it's you have to believe in something, and that's God. You have to believe in Jesus. And for me myself, Christianity and going to church wasn't a great experience. And because of that, it kind of changed for me, a lot of trying to move out and get out and, see what's out there. And I kind of felt in peace regarding Buddhism. So I'm actually technically,
a Buddhist? Really?
Yeah, a Buddhist.
But Buddhists don't believe in God.
And they don't believe in God, right? Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing here, though. It does say, can you convince me to believe in God, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that's where we're going to go at, because
but you don't believe
there's
in
so
God.
many turns. It's almost like one of those horror twisted, movies that there's a big twist in the end.
Wait a minute. So do you believe in God?
Well, something happened to me that I'm starting to question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's
So tell
like,
me about it. So which
yeah,
God is it?
yeah.
Is it
So
the Christian God or?
it's the Christian God.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a lot of things, and here's the thing that I've been dealing with a lot of um, mental issues, mental health, and just trying to you know try to find answers, trying to find answer because the scientist side of taking medication is not working. I was like, hey man, I believe in science. I'm taking this medication, is just not working out with me. And then I went to the spiritual side of trying to see if maybe any type of spirit or alien would help me out. And I just was going really close of going crazy because it's just and it's just my my experience, and I cannot share that experience with you because it's everything in my mind. So it's hard. Yeah, you can say I saw the big cheese. I dream about Jesus. He doesn't look like the Jesus that we know of, that we see. And
Wait,
his
is he
words,
ripped Korean
and
Jesus?
everything.
Please
And,
tell me that he's ripped Korean
I'm
Jesus.
very,
Ah, bummer. Ripped Korean Jesus is where it's at.
wish. Crazy,
Hold on, if you guys don't know, hold on.
For me, it was
Go ahead.
yeah. So his appearance was not white Jesus like we know of. He's more darker, more Neanderthal, looking. So it was, but you can see clearly that like, oh, he's Jesus for some odd reason. But the thing is, like, the feelings that typically you don't have when you're dreaming per se, or having these whatever, what could it be,
By the way, if you don't know, that's
and
ripped Korean Jesus. If you guys haven't seen, that's ripped Korean Jesus.
oh wow,
I don't understand why he's so ripped.
Oh yeah, that's I think that's the best version, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, if that was the real Jesus, like, that's the one I would pray to. Like, I don't know, man.
Right. And he told me a lot of things, and the things that I say contradicts what Christian believes in. And that's the whole issue, that even if I want to be Christian, the Christians won't accept me because of my belief. So it's kind of weird out.
Look, so I understand that you had an experience that was convincing to you, but how could it convince me?
I think I really don't want to convince you. I just want, like, why to
But that is the background.
why to believe. Yeah, like,
that is what it says.
Jesus appeared to me, like, he didn't convince me like, hey, you have to be Christian and baptize yourself. He didn't say that.
So let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
So if Jesus, if the Christian God is correct, is real, why does he have a preference for white people?
He has a preference with white people because that's what us of human, we put that there. It's almost like a catch-22. It's us that we put that there, and then we create it ourselves. It's not him, technically.
Well, no, what I mean is that, like, if you go that, what I mean is that, like, Christianity is very hard to find anywhere east of Iran, and it's very common west of Iran. And that's just, like, weird. If this was the God of the whole world, why would it be the case that the God would only care about half the world?
Right. So the thing with regarding that, is because it was already occupied per se. It was already occupied when Jesus came, and the east.
But I mean, look, people had religions in the West too. They had beliefs.
Right.
So, like, why is it that God's word is Like the one true God's word is only convincing to people west of Iran.
For the reason is because of humanity and their push of their beliefs. You know, they're pushing and forcibly doing that, and that's why a lot of witches died, quote unquote witches died, because like
I was
hey,
gonna say
if
but so look, so this is called the, and I'm alluding to it, but this is called
yes.
the problem of divine hiddenness, or at least it's closely related to it. Namely, if Jesus, if God, if the Christian God is real, then the most good thing that God, that what's taught in Christianity is that the greatest good is to have a relationship with that God, right? Now that's like the best thing that you can do. And God wants that for us because he loves us dearly. And so it just seems very, very strange that he's only chosen to reveal himself to like white people, and then for some reason Vietnamese, or let's say Thai people, are just resistant to Christianity. Like it just doesn't make sense unless it doesn't make sense on the theistic worldview that this is something he's like the true God of the entire world. On the other hand, if you understand Christianity as just like a thing that happened through colonization, well then it makes perfect sense.
Right. So what Jesus said to me, and that's the thing that, you know, he is not a God. He is a prophet, and he wants to just share, to be like him, to act like him, where we can, you know, be more, you know, what is in tune, what we have to do. And that's something that Christianity doesn't. You're not going to hell. You know, hell is something completely different. You know, it's for that 1% of people that, you know, it's just spewing a lot of hate. So that's what he said. And still it's, you know, it's bananas to say that things, because, you know, in Christianity they don't say that, and that's the point. You know, they want this narrative, and that's what we have because it's on the Bible, the King James Bible. King James, people don't know who King James is and what he did, and you know, and that's that translation from that person. So it doesn't make no sense, but it's because we are so brainwashed and so comfortable that we don't really ask questions anymore.
Look, all I'm saying is that if this God is real, it should really make you wonder why there are atheists in the world.
It's almost like why is there dark matter, you know?
I don't think that that's the same thing.
Okay, why is that? You know,
I don't even understand the comparison.
The comparison is that with or without dark matter, the universe exists. Same thing as with atheists or not atheists, we still exist either way. So that's the comparison. I'm so sorry.
No. So the reason I brought up atheists is that if God cared about us and loved us with all his heart, and he had the power to reveal himself to everybody, to convince them to believe in him, then he would have. But he didn't.
But I think, yeah,
he only revealed himself to like some random Jewish people in like 2,000 years ago, and then only to people who were conquered by Romans after that.
Yeah. So the thing that he revealed himself, and we're kind of, you know, people get confused regarding God and Jesus, and we put them together. They're actually separated. That's what my belief is. They're separated. So the thing that Jesus came in, you know, Nazareth and that part of the region, you know, was to align us to understand, almost like Buddha over there in India and northern, you know, in Nepal. I mean, you know, did the same thing, you know, but in a different type of way. So, and things with Buddha, you know, he meditated, he became enlightened, but he never said, you know, I want to be viewed as a god. And we still, you know, we go to a Buddhist temple and we have to bow our heads, we have to pray to him, and like, hey, are you praying to a god? Because that's what you're doing. And like, because that's almost like automatically our human instinct to do, to pray.
Well, look, that's because religion is popular in most parts of the world. I just don't understand how, like, because it's popular, because it's built into the culture, that doesn't make it true.
Right. But because it's almost instinct, almost like drinking water, that's why we have this narrative of doing things that we do and without questioning it, why we're doing, why, because Buddha, like you said, it's not a god, but hey, there's temples, there's statues, people pray to it, we and we do the same thing with every type of religion.
Look, so none of that makes any of the claims of divinity true.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking about. How do you know that it's true?
Trying to think myself right now, and the thing is that what is true, we're living right now.
Well, look, and this water bottle that just spilled water on my keyboard, it truly exists, right?
It truly exists, yeah.
This coin, which, by the way, the United States really needs to get back to having valuable coins. This coin's worth $2. You can buy a loaf of bread with this. We need these. We need big chunky coin. Really exists. So does God really exist?
It has to exist because we exist.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Why is that?
I mean, why does God have to exist because we exist?
I think the word is that we call it God, we call it the divine, the creator, there's has to be something, there's cause and effect without, there cannot be effect without cause.
I mean, we could have existed through evolutionary processes. Like, we don't need God to make us.
And that part, because I don't have proof what I'm about to say, that's where we stand off. It's almost the same thing as a lot of people that think that aliens existed and thought that there were crazy people, and we're becoming aware that aliens do exist, but still it's
Wait, what?
It's very, excuse me?
Did you just say that aliens do exist?
Oh, well, the government says that it exists, but
no, they don't.
Still, we don't have.
When did the government say that they exist? What?
Yeah, they did.
No, they didn't.
The U.S. government. I don't know.
The U.S. government did not say that they exist. The U.S. government held hearings about like UAPs, but that doesn't mean that the government said that they exist. What? UAPs are unidentified, right? It means that It means that we don't know what they are. So how can we say that they're aliens if they're unidentified?
So they're unidentified, so it means
we don't know what they are. That's what unidentified means.
All right. Yeah. It gives me a lot of time to think about, and try to research that one more time.
Okay. Well, I think I should probably move on to the next guest, Mike, but I want to thank you for being here.
Yeah, sure.
Have a good one, man.
Thank you for your time.
Of course.
Take care.
Take care. Oh, he left on his own. No, I don't want to disconnect this user. Let's bring on another guest from, let's see, please put me in, bro. I'm in YouTube. Kitten Lover, there is a person in front of you, unfortunately. By the way, y'all, stop arguing about how Jewish I look. That's weird. That's some weird ass shit, okay? Stop being weird in the comments. No, it's TikTok chat. You guys are being weird. Stop being weird. Alright, let's bring on Anti-Atheismo. Like, I don't know, bro. Just stop being weird. It's a weird conversation to have. Like, I get it. That's a conversation that you're allowed to have if you're Jewish. And if you're in the comments and Jewish and having that conversation, fine. But it's a weird look. Have it in person. Go to the synagogue. Have that conversation then. Be like, hey, Shmuley has some nice curls. But don't do that in a public place. It's weird. I'm allowed to say that, by the way, because I am Jewish. For the record. I forgive you, Big Philly. It's just weird. Just don't do it, okay? Alright, we're trying to bring up, alright, he didn't come in. Bummer. Yeah, the guy didn't connect. Oh, he's back. Alright, YouTube, don't fucking compete with TikTok for being weird. Don't just shout Jew in the TikTok comments, okay? Fucking weirdos. Be normal, okay? Don't be weird. The internet is a terrible place. Alright, we're gonna try. It's not a bad word. Just don't be weird about it, okay? I didn't. You just disconnected anti-atheism. I'm bringing you back, though. Don't worry. You're coming up.
Do you...
Howdy,
do you
how's it
see
going?
me? Do you see me?
I can. Yeah, I can see you. Welcome.
Good night. Good night. You on you. Good night, you and all your followers.
Likewise. What do you believe?
I am a Catholic.
Okay.
In
can
Britain,
you
word
be
a
Catholic?
papist.
Okay.
Can you, if you want, can you explain me mathematic mysterious? Can the atheist crew or atheist society, atheist crew explain in only material words, only in material energy and quantum mechanics interaction, the meaning of math, the meaning of numbers? I can hear one more time. I can hear that on numbers, on mathematics. Numbers, mathematics, algebraic word are a special language made by mankind.
Yep, I
But
agree.
this is true.
I agree that mathematics is a human language. What's the question?
Mathematical language is stuff made by mankind or discover.
I think that it was made by people.
Made. But we made things because we discover in the world other things. We had invented cars because we have oil, because we have steel, because we have plastic materials. But math, why math can describe and not describe the world? Because the union, the group of natural number can describe math, can describe the world.
Yeah.
Chemistry, physics, particle.
Look,
we understand?
We invented math for that purpose. We invented language to describe the world, like regular language, the kind of language that we're speaking now, to describe the world as well. We invented colors to describe the type of light that we see. We invented smells to describe the smells that we smell. We invent things to describe the things around us, and mathematics was invented to describe the universe. It's not surprising that it works.
Yes, I understand. If I go on a farmer, if I go in a farm, I can see some chicken walk and fly in the farm's field.
Yep.
And I can number a chicken, 2 chicken, 3 chicken, 4 chicken, each some more chickens. But, for example, can I number 2 on the road square chickens? When I see the word, I
No.
describe the word with natural and positive number. But the other kind of number, I don't see in the reality. I don't see in the material world.
You need a little bit more precision, but those are concepts. You could, I mean, if you're a constructivist for those who don't know, believe that the only numbers that exist are the numbers that you can actually construct in physical reality. So if you're a constructivist, you might say that, yeah, those numbers are just abstractions that are useful for thinking about mathematics, the language, in the same way that you might have a word for nothing, even though nothing itself doesn't exist. You might have a number for something that doesn't actually exist in reality because it's useful for thinking about things. Now, I happen to think that you actually can make sense of irrational numbers, for example, in the sense that, like, for example, if you have a square that has side lengths of 1, well, then its diagonal is going to have a side length of the square root of 2. Josh, thank you for being a 15-month subscriber. That's huge. I appreciate you.
Yes, and your example is most important. Is a very good example, because in the reality, in the material world, there are no Aristotelic or not Aristotelic, Platonic solid geometric. This is important.
Sure.
But if I don't see, if I can't observe in a material world a perfect cube, why I can thinking above it?
We can think about lots of things that don't exist. I can think
Yes.
about witchcraft, and witchcraft isn't real.
Yes, but we can make a different idea above imagination and thinking, because imagination is a form of thinking above figure and color. If I can imagine a witchcraft, I imagine a woman with supernatural and magic power above devil, above magic, above a magic school, but I can see a woman with a funny hat, with a ugly face, an imagine form, with an imagine thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can imagine a thing.
But you can imagine a number, not the symbol, a number. Can you imagine a number?
I don't. So the way that I imagine numbers is through their symbols. So
the symbol.
So like maybe you can imagine numbers in some other way, but the way I think about numbers is through their symbols.
There are many symbols for number 2. There are Greek numbers, there are Roman numbers, there are Indian Arabic numbers, there are computer math numbers.
Yeah, no. I think about
the ideas
of
number.
Yeah. So I can conceptualize. Thank you for the umbrella of love, Nated. I can conceptualize. Oh no, you gave them to anyway. I can conceptualize like numbers 1 through 5 or so, but then after that, I just think of the numerals. I just think of like the Arabic Indian numbers, and that's just how I think about things. But like, Like, look, we can imagine things that don't exist all the time. We have no issues doing that. And so if we can imagine things that have mathematical significance, then we can play with those imaginations and we can write about them without them even existing in the universe.
We can't play with imagination with numbers
Why
because
not?
I can't imagine a number or not.
I mean, you can imagine a shape. You can imagine a perfect square.
No,
No, you can't. Why not? I just
because
did it. I'm
because
imagining
no
a
no
perfect square right now.
no imagine not the action of imagine with the imagination, because imagination is a biochemistry work on my brain.
Yeah, sure.
I talk about ideas, cioè I talk about thinking. Thinking is not imagination, perché I can think above a lot of stuff that no have volume and color, like numbers.
Well, I mean,
Numbers no
I
have
think
color.
that thinking is also biochemical stuff.
I don't agree with your affirmation.
What do you think thinking is if not biochemical?
I don't. And one moment, Will Truvian Siegel
Don't read the
ask me, no?
comments. Don't read the comments. They're
No,
gonna be
no,
mean to you.
vabbè.
They're gonna be mean to you. Don't read the comments. It's not worth
Sì,
it.
sì,
It's
sì,
not worth your time.
okay. Numbers have a weight, numbers have a volume, like number 1, like number 2, like number 2, and each other number.
I mean, generally they don't, but not colors don't have a weight either. Colors don't have a volume.
Yes, because the colors is a particular wavelength
No,
of
I'm
absorption.
talking about the conception of colors, not the observation of colors. I'm talking about the conception.
Sì, good. The concepts, the ideas above number, above colors, above real thing, can't make by brain, because brain in atheistic logic can make and can form only material things.
Why do you think so? Why do you think that you can't that a material brain cannot conceptualize things that are immaterial?
For the definition, concept is not a material thing. For the definition,
it's an abstraction that, if you're a materialist, lives in a materialist brain. Like, let me give an example.
Yes.
So, a computer is like a thing,
Yes.
right? It has a motherboard, it has a processor, it has a graphics card, whatever. But the software, well, is the software a material thing? The way I see it,
yes.
I mean, not really. The transistors are material things, but the way I see it, the software is an abstraction. It's some way of describing a particular arrangement of that material. And I see concepts, I see immaterial concepts like the concept of the number 5 or the concept of a color as sort of like a program that's running in your brain.
Software is formed by radio signals, radio wavelength.
I mean,
So
not
it's
really.
material.
That's not what the software is. The software is an abstraction. It's like software can be represented by code, it can be represented by a sequence of ones and zeros, it can be represented by whatever, but that's not what the software is. That's a way of representing the software.
Now, maybe I have another definition of software. Maybe.
Okay. I meant like a computer program.
Maybe I have in mind. If you consider the language computer, binary language.
Mm-hmm.
Binary language. yes, if you describe the information, the idea on software, I am in the truth. There are a concept, there are things. Why can I explain? There are entities, things have no volume, have no color, exist, but no have materials properties. Like math, we consider a biggest unit who included the material world. But there are another biggest universe who consider all kind of existence, like ideas, like concept. Because if you consider that world is formed by only material reality, you can explain why brain makes ideas without materials thing. Animals imagine only, but can't thinking.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. I don't know if animals can't think. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not sure that anybody knows what consciousness is. So, if you're making a definitive claim that this cannot be true about consciousness or that must be true about consciousness, I'm just very skeptical. Because, like, nobody has any clue what consciousness is, right? So, like, how can you say that it's impossible with, like, a material system? It just seems I'm just very skeptical.
Animals don't think, animals imagine, but animals can't understand can understand ideas of justice, idea of complex number. Animals can't numbers. Animals can't see numbers thing. Various studies on rat brain can confirm this, but only natural number, only the number of materials.
Yeah, but to be fair, humans couldn't conceptualize anything but natural numbers until like 5,000 years ago. And it's not like our brains changed. We just got better at thinking about things.
Humans.
Right, like we didn't even have a concept of fractions before like the Babylonians.
Well, all right. I don't remember any invention in mathematics. If I think, if I remember, logarithm was formed in 8th century by Euler.
Yep.
Maybe, yeah, or
yeah, around there. Well, but
yeah,
I mean,
there.
like the Egyptians had fractions. Like the ancient Egyptians had fractions. I think the Babylonians had fractions too. But that's
If I remember, Egyptian math can calculate Greek pi with fraction by 22 and 7.
Yeah,
if I remember.
So I mean, this is all to say, up until fairly recently, humans have been around for a few 100,000 years. Up until fairly recently, we couldn't think of anything but natural numbers. So it's just, I don't know, like, just because animals can't do it, I don't know if that means that, like, somehow we are special. But look, I do actually have to go soon. And I know that you weren't on for long, but I did promise somebody that I'd let them come on a while ago. So I'm going to let you go, but we can always pick this up again at a later date. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, have
good
a good
night.
one, okay?
The show must go on.
It must. Take care.
Bye.
All right, Johan, you are probably going to be our last guest. So let us unmute you. Johan, can you hear me all right? I can. Let me just get you up on the live stream. One moment. Do you have video? Or actually, no, I don't think that will use video. So, what do you got for me?
Okay. I think you always start by asking people like
what
where
you
they
believe
are coming from. Yeah.
What do you believe and can you convince me of it? Bingo.
Yeah. I'm a Catholic.
Okay.
Kind of like a classical theist. I wouldn't say I'm the most able proponent of it, but it's kind of my philosophical and theological framework. Yeah, I think there's always a difference between trying to make a good argument and being able to convince someone. I mean, half of the time I can't convince my little sister to go on a walk with me, so yeah, so maybe it's difficult to convince someone to not be an atheist anymore, especially in front of lots of people.
Sure, that's understandable.
Yeah. So I think what I would like to do, in a sense, like as a first step, is convince you of your atheism a little less.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Good luck.
And I think in the process of that we could, then of course you are bound to also speak about. So I think I listened to the stream for about 1 hour and took some mental notes to kind of grasp what your views are. Yeah, so maybe just as a question to start, so if you think there are like inconsistencies in your own atheistic worldview, would that kind of lead you to then go and say, yeah, maybe the whole atheism is not worth believing in, or would you rather say, yeah, maybe I just kind of need to refine my atheism?
Yeah, it depends. It really depends on the inconsistency. If you find one, then that means, like, if you find one that can't be resolved while maintaining an atheist point of view, then yeah, I would have to change it. But if it's like a small thing that can be resolved within the atheist point of view, and I still have major objections to the theist point of view, then yeah, on the balance of things, it would be simpler to resolve the atheist point of view.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me about the inconsistency that you think you have?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me was, I think it was the guy that was maybe 2 or 3 spots before me, where you started to ask him, like, what can you believe in? How do you know you are not a brain in a vat?
Yep.
And there you said something like, if you can't trust your senses, what else can you trust?
Yep.
And so from that, I was kind of guessing that you at least might be sympathetic to a kind of philosophical realism. So which?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So in a rundown, it's that your mental faculties, your senses, your intellect partake in the real world.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. Because I think if you don't believe that, or if you can't answer that question, is what I'm experiencing real in the affirmative, there's kind of isn't any other point in asking
exactly.
other questions.
Yeah, I agree.
But then you also said that the mind is biochemical.
That's I think so. But again, like I'm super agnostic about this. Like I have no idea what consciousness is. Like maybe tomorrow will be a dualist or something like that. But like I have no idea. That's just what my intuition tells me.
Okay. Yeah. So I find these two things, like these two propositions, kind of hard to combine conceptually. Because, for example, if I was demented or something like that, the biochemistry of that is valid. Or if I'm hallucinating, the biochemistry of that is valid because it's happening. but it doesn't really tell me anything true about the world. And so I think at some point I have to decide if I rather accept that I can trust my senses and have any kind of inquiry into the world, or I accept that the mind is biochemical, which to me seems like in sorry, I'm looking for the right word. Like in the way we know things, the proposition the mind is biochemical comes quite a few steps later.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, I think I can trust my senses.
Yep.
And so I would rather be willing to drop that point.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, so maybe
your shoes.
So maybe the brain isn't biochemical. I don't see what that has to do with theism though, or atheism. Like that's just an intuition I have. Like I'm really agnostic on this. Like if you forced me to make a decision, that's the way I would lean. But like I'm happy to be agnostic and just be like, yeah, I don't know what the mind is. I don't know what consciousness is.
Okay, so you would be rather willing to just say, okay, I'm agnostic on the kind of materialist view of the mind.
Yeah, I lean that way just because it's parsimonious with the materialist view of the rest of the world. But if somebody has a convincing argument or some compelling reason why we have to treat the mind differently from the rest of the world, okay, I guess that's fine.
Yeah. But kind of the philosophical realism you wouldn't be as willing to be agnostic about.
Well, yeah, like I basically like axiomatically I believe that the universe exists. I believe that my senses are reasonably accurate, and I believe that induction is like something that is reasonably trustable. And I don't know how to not believe those things. So yeah, I can't reject my senses being at least reasonable. Now, it is possible that like I could be hallucinating insofar as like I could be mentally ill, and then I would hope that like my significant others would help me realize this, and then I would trust my senses less in that case. But as far as I'm aware, I am not schizophrenic. I do not have other hallucinations, so I think I can reasonably trust my senses.
I'm glad to hear that.
Who knows? Maybe I'm talking to myself. Maybe you're not really here.
Yeah. I don't think you are.
You don't think I'm here?
No, I don't think you are talking to yourself.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at least one of the takeaways for the conversation I want to make from this is when we say we believe in God and the kind of theist, classical theist position reason that God is or that God exists. The certainty I mean by this is the same certainty you have that you have hands and
how do you get to that?
That the table in front of you is real. To what exactly?
Like you said from natural reasoning. So like, what's the natural reasoning?
Yeah. Okay, I will go to that in a minute, or try to. But absolute certitude, because you can really question.
Yeah, sure.
Everything.
But like, if you can convince me that I should be as certain that God exists as my hands exist, then then I'd believe, right? Because I believe my hands exist, so I would believe God exists if you can get me to the same level of certainty.
So maybe we can start this from another point, which you spoke about with last person, kind of your comparison between the mind and software. I think one thing that may be more easily looked over when we make this comparison is that software in itself is a product of a mind, and even whatever we mean by mind or set up. And so if we know that there's something which I will call intellect, which can kind of cause these somewhat intellectual processes, like an intellect that causes our that causes the intelligibility. Sorry, English is not my
What language?
first
What's your
language.
what's your mother tongue? Is it German?
That is
Okay, yeah, your English is better than my German, so you're fine. Yeah, so it sounds like you're making an argument from design. Like, if human minds are like software, software has software designers, so human minds should have a designer, something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say I make that the way you compare our minds to software, and because software is designed, I guess my question is, wouldn't it be that the same applies to our minds?
Sure, if we didn't have good reason to think otherwise, right? And I mean, like, no analogy is perfect, otherwise it's not an analogy, you're just talking about the same thing. So, like, like, I might compare, here's a great example from my field. We talk about particles having spin, right? And that's an analogy, because the particles aren't actually spinning. They just kind of behave like they are. But that doesn't mean that we can then infer that they're little balls that are actually spinning just because they behave like they are spinning, just because they have angular momentum. So I think that the analogy is good for some things and not good for other things. I think it's good for explaining how you can get, at least if it's true, it's good for explaining how you can have abstractions even in a physical, like even on a physical substrate. I don't think it's good for explaining where it comes from.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what gets more helpful as kind of with anything in human experience, to kind of rest beliefs you put trust in on, like, data points, for example, if it was their wives or whatever. They probably couldn't point out like one major thing or give you a syllogism.
Bet. Absolutely, I will give you a syllogism for why I trust my wife.
Data points.
Yes. Nobody that's untrustworthy would love me. My wife loves me, ergo, my wife is trustworthy. This is modus tollens.
Okay, I'm happy that is the case.
Get wrecked, nerd. No. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. So I don't think just merely the existence of intellects in the world is like a stone cold perfect intellect, which is kind of the cause of intellection. But I think it's at least a fact about the world in the matter that is true if there's an intellect.
So just to rephrase what you're saying, roughly you're saying it is the fact that we can know things makes sense if you assume there is an intellect that is kind of having the knowledge for us?
Maybe not even as
It's at
true,
least
but,
consistent.
the fact is also true if there's an intellect that
Yeah, no,
that is the cause
I
of
agree. If
these
there's an
things.
intellect, then it is entirely sensible that the universe would be. If there's an intellect with certain characteristics, anyway, then it's entirely sensible that the universe would be, intelligible. I agree, but that doesn't rule out the alternative that the universe is intelligible and there's no intellect.
Yeah, well, and yeah, this maybe brings us just back to the first to the thing I started the conversation with is, how do things work, like metaphysically, on atheism with intelligibility.
Yeah, so I mean, all you need for intelligibility is a universe that's like consistent, right? Just like a universe that like behaves in a particular way, in a consistent way, that can then be learned. And so I just kind of axiomatically accept that the universe is consistent. And it seems like that's enough to understand the world. It seems like you don't need to make any further assumptions. Well, you also need to assume that your senses are reliable, but
the problem that I kind of have, well, maybe this isn't your position, but I think like a decent commonality between atheist worldviews is kind of the rejection of theology, but
teleology,
like that thinks that, like that thinks that the telos.
So I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that the universe has a telos. I'm not. I'm fair. Like, I lean against that, just because I don't see what a purpose is for, like, I don't know, a random black hole a trillion light years away. But But again, I'm not like dogmatically against like there's is it called natural teleology or something like that? There's like there's a word for like there are atheists who believe in teleology, so
okay. Yeah.
Hail Satan! Sorry, I had to do that. Somebody just donated $6.66. Thanks, Charlie. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, I didn't prepare like a good argument outline, but I just wanted to talk about some of the things you said. And would be interesting for me as well, maybe for the other viewers also. You kind of made an argument from divine.
That only works for Christians, by the way. It doesn't work like generically for like a deist god, right?
Yeah, like what kind of weight does that have in your conviction?
It has weight on my conviction against certain branches of theism, right? Like that is very convincing. That is very convincing to me that Christianity is false.
Okay. I think, I hope I'm not misquoting you here. You said something like, if there's a God that wants to be known and wants to reveal himself, why
That's
are
essentially
there
the divine hiddenness
atheists in
argument,
the
yeah.
world? Yeah. But I think you wouldn't. So, would you agree that it's at least logically possible that such
I mean,
God is
the
real, or that God is real in this way, in some way?
well, so not really. Because look, so the analogy that I gotta check that my wife's not around. The analogy that I often give is if I wanted to have a relationship, if I wanted to be friends with Scarlett Johansson, right? If I wanted to be friends with Scarlett Johansson,
Yeah.
it would be unreasonable of me to expect that I can just declare it to the world and then she would know and she would become friends with me. Rather, I have to first make sure she knows I exist, right? And as it stands right now, Scarlett Johansson doesn't know that I exist, right? Obviously, she's a superstar. I'm nobody. She doesn't know that I exist. So it would be unreasonable for me to expect that she would know that I exist, and that's a prerequisite for her to have a friendship with me. Similarly, I don't even know that God exists. So as a prerequisite for me to have a relationship with God, which is presumably what God wants, God would have to ensure that I know that he exists. Otherwise, how could I even possibly have a relationship with him? And the thing is, it would be one thing if God wasn't perfect, if God didn't know how to convince me, but God knows what it would take to convince me that he exists. And yet, he hasn't done that, which makes me think that either he's not interested in a relationship with me, or he's not capable of revealing himself to me, or he doesn't know that I don't know about him.
So,
Yeah,
so
sure.
maybe let me reflect the way you're putting the argument right now. That because you are an atheist, in a sense, it's not possible that you can ever be convinced of at least the
Well,
Christian.
I mean,
an atheist, it's not.
Well, right. So generally, I make this argument when referring to people who die atheists, because there are people who live their entire life as atheists. They're not like, they don't like hate God. They were just maybe born that way, and then they lived their whole life as an atheist, and they were just never convinced. Right. So those people, this applies to those people. Maybe in 10 years I'll be a Christian, who knows? But there are people who live their entire lives being atheists, and God could have chosen to reveal himself to them, but for some reason chose not to.
Yeah. So, from a Catholic perspective, because of the things we believe about God, and as the Catholic position is, and I'm not, at least right now, able to like take you through a step by step, but from the Catholic position, cause of all goodness and also the end of it, and because creation is ordered towards him, it kind of comes down to a person's knowledge of what good are at least analogically true also of God's goodness. If they cooperate with that, they are seeking God, albeit in an imperfect way or incomplete way. And yes, and let's suppose we had kind of an ignorance that couldn't be surmounted in human ways. I wouldn't say from my Catholic view that God wasn't drawing on him or drawing this person to him in ways that are intelligible to this person.
So let me rephrase just to make sure I'm understanding. Are you saying that it was the person's fault that they didn't notice God?
It's kind of difficult. Like, of course, it depends from case to case.
Because,
but I wouldn't say I wouldn't say
Okay.
necessarily so. So like people can cooperate with God.
I mean, there's a great example, right? Like, if there's one thing I know from talking to many Christians and Catholics, like Catholics are Christians, is that personal experiences are very powerful at converting people, right? Like overwhelmingly, most people aren't converted by like philosophical arguments or whatever, right? And so it seems like if God wanted to convert even the most die-hard atheists, he would just give them a personal experience. And then he would let them decide whether they want to worship him or not, whether they want a relationship with him or not. He would just give them a personal experience so that they at least know he's there, right? But so why doesn't he do that? He knows that works.
Yeah, but I mean I get the problem. In a sense, the divine hiddenness argument is like a more specific.
It's related, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, when these kinds of conversions happen, you also have ways of putting that into your framework.
But you can do it when it
like
happens to somebody else. Very rarely do people who have the personal experience justify it to themselves. But for what it's worth, I've never had such a personal experience. So, like, in principle, he's just slacking. He's not putting in the effort if he wants me to come to him. Let me rephrase. I've never even had anything even remotely close to something that anybody would call spiritual.
Yeah.
Like, I've lived a perfectly, not mundane, like it's been interesting, but I've lived a perfectly, natural, like people get sick, people get sick sometimes, people die sometimes, people, get married, people sometimes have babies, like, it's perfect, nothing special has happened.
Yeah.
There's been there's been no moment where I'm like, well, that was weird. What are the odds that happened? Right?
Yeah. Anyway, so if it is true that God, and also I want to clarify one thing. In the classical theist or Catholic point of view, God isn't like a being that exists within reality, but God is existence and being itself or himself.
Wait, so I actually I gotta go soon. I have another meeting, but I gotta ask, do you think that being is gendered? Okay.
But,
why did you correct yourself when you said being himself?
Yeah. So one to give due to the fact that God is person, but also we speak of basically just more for symbolic reasons. So like in the Catholic or in the Catholic point of view, God is the cause of the things that exist, distinct from them. And if you would have more like a pantheistic worldview where God is the Word, then you would speak of him in female terms, or you would speak of God more similar to a baby growing within a mother, and the father is, in a sense, more separate.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, so it's no.
Okay. Well, look, Johan, unfortunately I do have to let you go because I have a meeting that started 10 minutes ago. So
Yeah.
I gotta go to that. But I do appreciate you being here, and have a good rest of your night, okay?
Yeah.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, and to everybody who's watching, that does mean it's the end of the live for me too. So if you enjoyed, this may have been the last TikTok stream. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe I'll be live tomorrow because, you know, we have a lot of time to make up before the ban. But go follow me on YouTube. I'm not stopping. I'm not quitting. I'll just be on YouTube. If TikTok goes away, just watch me on YouTube. That's where all of your favorite creators are going anyway. That's where they can monetize. So go to YouTube, go subscribe on YouTube. I have the same name there as I do here. And I'll see you guys on the other side.